All right, start recording in three, two, and one. All right, and welcome back to the Reserve Squad Midweek Show, soccer podcast covering all things in the EPL from a bench perspective. But it is summertime now. We're in the Euros, and we have a Final Four set up for us now. So Spain with some late minute magic, scoring the goal. Basically, Germany's team was built to score, so I found that a little fitting. Uh, and they do manage to get past the host, Germany, in a really entertaining spectacle, fitting basically befitting of it being the final itself. There was everything. There was controversy, a little ref incompetence, the way that Anthony Taylor just allowed Tony Cruz to just go out and be basically a hitman in the first few minutes. There was karma. There was karma backfiring on that as well because Tony Cruz took out Pedri, and on came Pedri's replacement, Danny Olmo. Some people were thinking Olmo should probably start anyways, but they're different players, and you saw. I'll get to it later when I get into the game. I do think that change actually hurt Spain in the beginning, but in the second half, obviously, Olmo's a little better player in the final third, and when you get Olmo the ball in those kind of areas, maybe he is a little bit better. And Olmo not only gets the goal, also applies the final the assist as well for the second goal, and. I thought there was it was a nice little story of one manager being a little too cute in the beginning and getting things right, and then the other manager, doing playing the similar kind of lineup that he had played at this point, but maybe getting a little too cute when he thought he had the game won, but by taking some players off maybe a little earlier than he should have. But also, Kai Havertz doing Kai Havertz things, which has been a bit of a theme. This game really did have it all. It was entertaining, lots of drama in it. Both teams wanted the ball. Both teams had an idea of what they want to do when they were trying to attack, and it was nice to see because as we get to the other games, that was not the case. So. The other marquee matchup on that day was France and Portugal, and basically both tried to put everyone to sleep in the first half. Both teams with ample opportunities though in the second half to win it. The second half did get a little bit better, uh, and basically when you have stalemates like that, you need your manager to make an adjustment to help you win the game. And basically, Deschamps brought on Dembele, and that change really did help. And then Roberto Martinez kind of did the opposite. He took off Bruno Fernandes and Cancelo. Now in extra time, Conceição actually did help out a little bit, but in the beginning, it felt like that kind of killed all of their momentum they had. And he brought on Yao Felix instead of say a Diego Jota or Neto, and unfortunately for him, Yao Felix ends up being the guy that ends up missing the PK. But he came on a little late, cold feet. It's not easy to ask someone with that hasn't really had many touches on the ball at all to take your penalty, as we saw last year with England a few years back. Everyone remembers England's three players missing, not just missing PKs, but Donnarumma having a save or two. But they also came in almost like the last minute of the extra time, just specifically for the PKs, and they came in cold. I think that factors in, and so it wasn't necessarily great there. The other story in this game was Mbappe having to come off. Could have been a story because he didn't take a PK, but it doesn't matter. France were able to get through it. The France being able to basically beat Diego Costa, who had looked Superman just last game, where he had saved three PKs. So that was a bit of a story as well. And some of these were absolutely fantastic. Now, a couple early looked to be nervous, and basically Diego Costa looked like he was guessing a little early, and he was going earlier than maybe he should have. And basically, a couple of those in the beginning were just straight through. But the ones to clinch it were just hitting the upper 90 with some power. So some nice PKs to at least there. This game did wake up a little bit in the second half, but Portugal have to look at this like a massive missed opportunity because I thought they basically took France out of their game a little bit. They had a combination of Rafael Leao and Nuno Mendes that France could not handle at all. Whether it was Conte on that side, whether it was switching Camavinga on that side to help out just a little bit, Portugal was still getting in behind with ease, and uh, they were just missing maybe the right pass, maybe the right decision in that final third. But they finally did get it in the second half. There was I think it was Leao that finally did do a cut, and instead of trying an early cross, trying to maybe be a little predetermined, made a guy move, and then found Vitinha inside the box. And Vitinha does everything he's supposed to do. hits it way too close to Mignon. Mignon had to make a couple of pretty big saves. Otherwise, this probably could have been a 1-0 in front of Portugal's favor. That said, Diego Costa also had to make a couple saves in that second half. Dembele came on and completely changed France's look a little bit, and that helped out as well. So we get France and Spain. And Mbappe's status is potentially a question mark. I haven't really seen a whole lot reported on that, but we expect him to play, but we don't really know. And it'll be a different Spain as well. No Alvaro Morata because of those stupid yellow cards that have been plaguing everyone. They need to get rid of that because they don't have that in Copa. Uh, so just two yellow cards over like 5 games gets you suspended for a semifinal. I don't really think that's right. Uh, so it'll be a different Spain. There will be no Carvajal as well. Now he was going to miss anyways, and then he decided to get a late red. He got to just stop Jamal Musiala. What does Spain do? The option there is, I think the second man is Jesus Navas, who is like 39 years old now. He's been able to play for Sevilla. He's been able to play Europa games or Champions League games. Uh, Maybe I haven't really, and I think he even played versus Albania, so he's shown that he can play, but that's not Mbappe. If Mbappe can go, and that's probably the matchup I would look at. That France could maybe exploit Spain a little bit. Also, Spain have struggled a tad with some pace, with pacey attackers. We saw Georgia have some success, or at least not necessarily getting a lot of shots on their goal. I think they had 4 shots the entire game, but getting into danger moments, like making those counters look threatening. France have that in boatloads. Even if Mbappe doesn't play, they have Bradley Bacola, they have Dembele, Kolo Muani or Thuram, whoever they feature. They can all make those runs in behind. So the only question is will France be able to get the ball? Because that was another thing too in this game, in the Portugal game, is France were sitting back, and I don't know if it was a tactic or they just don't have players that can press. But they allowed Portugal to just pass around them pretty much the entire first half, or at large parts of the second. And you do that with Spain, Spain will kill you. 50,000 cuts without a whatever the saying is. 50,000 paper cuts essentially. Doing it slowly. Spain can do that if they need to. It's going to be a different Spain because of no Alvaro Morata. When Yamal and Nico Williams get the ball, they're not really going to have a target man. Now maybe they play Hasalu. So Hasalu will give them some kind of threat into the box, but Hasalu won't be as good out of possession, and Hasalu probably won't be the one that kind of doing the link up play that Murata was doing versus Germany. That's a pretty big miss, and I haven't seen a whole lot of people talk about that. So we'll see how Spain's able to manage it. If they do fall, I think that could be a big story to why, but we'll have to see. Frankly, I'm in a situation where I find myself just really rooting for Spain to win, simply because they've been entertaining, and I want an entertaining team to win the tournament. Because and like Copa America, I want maybe Colombia to win Copa America, because I haven't liked some of the managers that have been able to be successful by being super quote unquote pragmatic, but really scared out of their shadow, way too defensive minded, way too afraid of having their players take any kind of risk. It is made for not the most entertaining soccer in some of these games. And Marcelo Bielsa, the Uruguay coach, had some pretty interesting thoughts about that recently, which I'll get to as well. But before, on the other bracket, we had England and Switzerland, and this game didn't have a lot of shots, but I think the better team lost this game. So, Southgate, what would Southgate do? There was a lot of talk about that. There's the idea that maybe Luke Shaw could possibly be able to go. Would he feature? We did see that, and there was also talks before this about we would see a different formation used to maybe get some more out of Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden, because we have seen Jude accomplish some things, but we haven't really seen Foden really excel at all in this England team, regardless of where he's been played. So would we get something different with that? And the mock-up had Trippier being on the right wing back, and I was thinking, you're playing Trippier over Trent Alexander-Arnold at right wing back. What are you doing? Also, Kyle Walker used as a third center back never has made sense to me at all. Now, I know he's played it for England in the past, and Southgate likes him for his recovery pace. But Switzerland were not beating you with recovery pace, and necessarily, sprints in a high line where you really need that. Switzerland were beating them with lots of possession in England's final third, pinning them back, and just having really clever movement and passing to kind of unlock them to kind of anyone that was ball watching was getting hurt. So I just think having a traditional center back in that place instead would have been probably preferential or preferred. And I think we actually saw that for the goal that they gave up. But we did see something different. We saw Trippier back at left back, and we saw Saka almost in his right wing back spot. This didn't really change Saka's role that much, but it did seem to give him a little more freedom. He was able to kind of uh, when he got on the ball, he was able to take people on a little bit more, and we saw probably the best soccer that we have seen. Not just the goal. So it's fitting he gets the goal, but sometimes this kind of happens. Sometimes when a player is having his best game of a tournament, prior to scoring, it just seems like that just almost like a shooter that makes a couple baskets in a row. Once you see the ball go in, everything else kind of seems to be easier to. It is easily the best Saka that we have seen so far. Just because the first half England weren't doing anything, but Saka was getting by his man time after time, and getting into really dangerous moments, and just no one was there to finish on the end of his really good crosses. And the reason why I think it was the best that we had seen Saka is Saka wasn't doing this. I'm going to hold on to the ball, uh, stall, and then shift it onto my left foot as much as possible. No, Saka was taking people on, using his right foot, and going to the byline time and time again. And Switzerland were not able to handle it. So it was good that we saw that, and it was fitting because Saka was one of the ones that other than there've been a few, but really Saka's been one of the most talked about players on this England team. Suggestions to play him on the left just to get kind of give England someone there, and that is a lot of Arsenal fans didn't like that because it came from one of their main former players in Ian Wright. I think it was not the worst idea because it wasn't. I want to defend Ian Wright because I think he was looking at things just kind of uh, not necessarily philosophically, but just he recognized basically England's weakness throughout this entire tournament was their left side. Trippier cannot do anything, even if Trippier is providing you with. No one cares. No one knows he's going to. Everyone knows he's not going to swing a ball in with crossing it in with his left foot. He just can't do it. A number of even in this game, number of times Trippier got into really good situations where a cross was on, and he just couldn't do it. It would be weak. It wouldn't find anyone, and that has just been England have not been able to utilize the left side the entire tournament, and so now they have Luke Shaw back finally for the semifinal. Will they actually play him or not? He finally got some minutes in his legs. It could be a risk. That said as well. He might not necessarily be fit, but they don't really have any other option, and they're not going to whether or not they get through Netherlands or not. They're not going to win the final if Luke Shaw can't go for them. So Southgate has to make another big call. We'll see if he does. And then with Switzerland, the reason why I think the better team won is or the better team lost is Switzerland really did have England figured out. Now there are a lot of commentators that were talking about how better England looked in their changed look. Uh, Switzerland weren't really able to create a whole lot of danger. So I guess they looked better somewhat defensively, but in the second half, Switzerland had England absolutely pinned down. There was no way for England to push Switzerland's kind of back three, who were basically camped out almost in the 35-yard line in England's half in that second half. Just possession after possession and just countless 5-minute stretches basically. And there was no other than Saka. There was no outball. There was nothing to send over the top. Uh, the Bellingham would try to make a sprint, and just no one on Switzerland's backline was really threatened by Kane, and I just the lack of an ability to have a counter threat just forced England to be back, and it got to a point where they were just ball watching. And one of the things that Switzerland have is they've got very good players on the ball from deeper. Their center backs almost turn into midfielders, and that's what we saw with Fabian Schär. And Fabian Schär, even before setting up the goal, had gotten into really dangerous moments and had some really clever through balls. So England were just basically begging for this, and Fabian Schär is the one that basically creates the danger, and then it's Ndoye that's able to get across in before Conte can step in and stop it. Uh, England trail, and then Southgate basically does a hockey lineup change. He brings on like five or 3 or 4 different players, basically completely not playing a shape. Basically, he just put on as many technical attacking minded players as possible, and just figured they would figure it out. And they do, but I don't think it's because of the changes. Really, I think it's because Saka gets the ball, and finally someone makes a run for him to play with. People that make that'll be a theme when I get to this game that I want to really highlight on is because the Switzerland goal really happens before Fabian Schär gets the ball. Xhaka has it before Schär, and there's a player Weidmer who makes a run, and that drags Trippier away, and that's the reason why Fabian Schär is able to get the ball with no one near him. And so it's the unselfish running where you don't even get the ball, but just the run itself creates for others, and we see it with England. Uh, Saka gets the ball, and Declan Rice doesn't just hold; he actually decides to make a run, and he continues his run. It's not even really a sprint; it's just a little bit of a jog. But the jog carries a defender with him, a defender that would have been in the spot where Saka ended up shooting. So, and when I get to England, the funny thing is Southgate made all those attack-minded changes, but it was all ball to feet kind of players with Jude Bellingham staying on, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, Harry Kane. Everyone was looking for the ball to their feet, and then when they got the ball, they would be waiting for someone to make a run, and everyone just kind of showing for it. There was no movement at all. With Switzerland on the other end, there was movement every time Switzerland had the ball, and the only thing I think about, or I can think about here, is I think the manager messed up a little bit. Now, whether or not the legs were dead or not, he took off Mbolo early in the extra time. He took off Ndoye early in extra time and brought on a defensive-minded midfielder in Zakaria and brought on I think it was Shaqiri. And Shaqiri, has a shot on him, but he's not really going to threaten you in behind. You lacked the ability to really kind of counter and hurt England. And England at that point we're basically playing with John Stones and like 10 attack-minded players, really. So it was, yeah, I think they had Luke Shaw. They probably brought Luke Shaw on, and they played him at center back because, of course, Southgate. But they were able to stick it out, and then at PKs, the England's are good. England are good at PKs. The 3 years ago, notwithstanding, they have been good under Southgate. And before that, before he took over, I think in 2018, they went to PKs with I think Colombia, and were able to beat them. Then Pickford's been their goal ever since, basically that Colombia game. And whether or not it's the training that they do, they maybe the techniques. A lot of these players actually do take their PKs for their team. Now maybe that wasn't the case, in the past, but England are good at PKs, and there you go, they're able to advance with that. But they keep just getting away with it. Now, will that last? Some teams have been able to do that. Almost, we've seen Real Madrid do that for the last few years. So we'll have to see if they have some dark magic left in them or not. I will be interested to watch that Netherlands game. Basically, it's almost a mirror game in my opinion because Coleman is a lot of Southgate to me. He's made a lot of mess ups as well, but he's funny enough he's been able to make second half adjustments I think better than Southgate. But we'll see. One of them has to go through, so we'll see. And whoever goes through will probably be the underdog with the other bracket. And so that kind of let the cat get out of the bag. So we do have Turkey and Netherlands to go on to beat Turkey. Turkey were upset about the Demiral suspension before this, and his replacement scored, so that was a little fitting. Great ball in by Arda Güler. Some other thoughts to say is Yilmaz. Yeah, I thought was really owning on the Dutch backline. There was another player that was really impressing. Their left back. I have his name. Later on, I can't necessarily think of it here, but I'll get to him. He was impressing. Turkey were playing in a back five, but they were not afraid to go forward, and I really did enjoy that. Netherlands had a lot of the ball. They could not really do a whole lot with it. That first half was not good, not good by them at all. It just felt they needed a target man, and basically that was the change they did. They took off did Birdwine to bring on Wout Weghorst, him and Memphis almost like a two striker duo into the box with Gakpo being able to create a little bit on one side, almost Dumfries was almost like their winger on the other side, and Netherlands just kind of as they were able to keep Turkey pinned just eventually, little chaos into the box basically created all created this. They get one goal from a corner kick, but the corner kick came from a ball that Wagenhorst was able to get on the end of. Possibly could have squared it for a tap in on there, and then on the second one, Wagenhorst helps out, and they are able to keep after a ball is sent in by Memphis. Uh, able to keep or I think it's Xavi is able to keep the attack alive, and then it's a ball out to Dumfries, and Dumfries has a great little switch ball or little square ball that finds Gakpo back post, and Gakpo, whether or not it's his goal, whether or not it's an own goal, whether or not he even it's a foul, it's able to basically burrow the ball into the net to completely change the game in the second half, and then after that, Turkey came to life as well. Verbrugge had to make a couple really nice, heroic late saves. Also, De Vrij had a couple really big blocks. Nicky Van de Ven basically cleared a ball off the line after he came on for Nathan Ake. Van Dijk had a couple clearances as well. So this game easily could have been 2-2, and frankly, it out of all the games, that's the one we should have gotten extra time with because outside of Germany and Spain, this was the second entertaining game out of the others because both teams, again, Turkey were playing a back five, but both teams were also willing to go forward. It's fine to play with a back five as long as you commit, not only you commit numbers forward, but one thing that made Turkey really fun was they had really, expensive or expansive, brave, center backs on the ball, similar in a different way, to Switzerland, but similar somewhat in that, their center backs turned into a different kind of, turned into midfielders, on the ball. You had a number of really nice, clever runs that basically unlocked things and just, undressed Netherlands because they had everyone marked, and then all of a sudden you have a center back running, from deep, and you don't if someone that has some pretty good pace to him is able to basically break through a couple of your lines and disorganizes you completely. Switzerland didn't necessarily have runners or ball carriers, but they had Fabian Schär who was able to kind of unlock some things as well. And just the funny thing about England is I look at someone like a John Stones, and I even have this note later on is Fabian Schär to me looked like John Stones usually does for Man City, and then the note I had for England was, it's a shame that England don't have someone like a John Stones that could do something for them too. As kind of tongue in cheek, just we haven't seen that, yet. But that is where we are. That is setting us up. And before I really do a little bit more of a deep dive, I did want to talk a little bit about what Marcelo Bielsa of Uruguay said because he talked about how he didn't like the way that the game is going. Now he said there've never been more eyes. Globally, there's just everyone has basically people eating out of the palm of their hand. But to keep those fans, you have to entertain. It can't just be about making 120 minutes into like two or three moments throughout the entire game, and that's what we're starting to see. Now this isn't new. We this has been a long theme, but it is a problem when you see teams just not committing numbers forward, basically passing backwards just to pass it. And if you don't have a team that's also trying to press, when you're out of possession and they're just kind of sitting waiting for something to happen as well, you can get into a lot of stalemates because you don't the other team doesn't want to commit numbers either because that allows for a ball over the top that basically plays to that. And so what I think is frustrating is the lack of people that uh, not only the lack of bravery when someone is just I don't know 5-8 yards near them where they don't just if anyone gets in their vicinity they freak and immediately pass backwards or sideways. Someone like a Vitinha I was watching just to call someone out. Portugal haven't necessarily been that much fun, but Vitinha has. Vitinha was getting the ball with Camavinga right on his backside, turning him. and still finding a way to shield the ball and keep it and to go forward with it. And I just haven't seen enough of that this tournament. I haven't seen a lot of clever passes going through lines. Fabian Scherer doing what he did. I haven't seen Declan Rice do that one time this entire tournament, and he's a center back. How can we make this more entertaining? That have people basically be a little more brave on the ball. Stop having managers that basically only care about not losing possession, or that only think about finding ways to just play off the counter. Wenger's offsides idea interests me a lot as well. Now, people have been saying this would backfire because you would have people even playing more in a shell, but I don't really think that. I think actually, if anything, it would allow you to still getting behind easier, and that's kind of the main thing. But two, if you've got teams that are just going to sit back all game and sit even further back, eventually, if you have a target man that you can bring on and just create some chaos in the box, you can punish teams just by that. So I would like to maybe see that, and that kind of gets to another thing too. We're seeing, with the Netherlands, we saw it with Fulkrug, even the Havertz. We're seeing teams where we get situations where it's so hard uh, to play through lines. It's so hard to have the right passing combinations and whatnot. Versus a sea of legs, basically defending in a box of basically two blocks. The easiest way to do that is to just honestly get some crosses in and try to win second balls in there. And so when you have people that are really good in the air, that's how you can almost overcome it. And so I think there's someone on Twitter, Grace on Football, that recently had this point that has basically stuck with me the entire tournament. And it's international football is not like club football, where someone like a Route Wanghorse is more important to have than a Phil Foden. And I think that is basically panned out. But we'll see. There's a game to actually test that theory out in real life. So we'll see if Wanghorse is more important than Phil Foden. So anyways, that's kind of setting us up where and I'll get to the deep dive a little bit with Spain and Germany. Uh, Spain do go on to win 2-1 with Danny Olmo getting the first goal in the 59th minute, then Florian Wirtz right before the end of the game in the 87th minute, and then Mikel Moreno of Sociedad in the 119th minute. The player that everyone would have expected to win the game, of course, Mikel Moreno. I've talked about a Sociedad player, but it's been Zubimendi, his teammate. I haven't talked about Moreno at all. But sometimes you need that. Sometimes you just need someone to for a team to do something like this. You need someone to be a hero in a moment, and we basically got that. Fulkrug came on and really was a difference as well. So that's kind of just setting up where we were. Spain, so coming into this, uh, they had to take on the host, and they knew it was going to be a hard team to play. And I thought Germany coming into this did feel a little off. They had been fortunate versus Denmark. With a couple of those calls going their way, they hadn't looked great for Switzerland either. The Wirtz Musiala thing seemed to have basically tricked Nagelsmann, and basically we saw that in this game we saw Sane get the start, and Sane did not necessarily have his best game and was hooked, and immediately Wirtz came in, and immediately Wirtz was good. And it wasn't necessarily as great as could be, but Wirtz did seem to create Spain a little more danger than we had seen. Uh, Havertz continuing to get the start, where and then the interesting thing was it was basically Havertz was moved into Gundogan's role. They took Gundogan off, and they brought in Fulkrug. And basically, they asked Havertz and Fulkrug to just kind of win some balls into the box and see if you could create some havoc that way. And that's basically what happened in the second half. I thought it was interesting. They could have maybe tried Musiala in that Gundogan role instead. Maybe take Havertz off. You could have maybe moved Sane to the other side, because maybe ask Sane to actually send you some crosses, because Sane wasn't doing anything on the right. The other interesting idea was Emre Can starting over an Andrick. And the Nagelsmann made a comment afterwards, which I thought was interesting, where he said he did it because he wanted someone with a little more energy, a little more motive to them, to basically follow Fabian Ruiz. And I thought that was interesting. It wasn't Rodri that he was worried about, or even Pedri. Nagelsmann said that the guy that they were focusing on was Fabian Ruiz, because Ruiz was, at least in the clips, or in the way that they were preparing, Ruiz was the one that was always, becoming the third man to kind of, help Spain get out of trouble. And Ruiz didn't necessarily have a whole lot of highlights here, but you kind of see that too. Ruiz, helps, set up for one of the for the goal. Uh, Ruiz is always someone that just seems to be in a position that just creates guys to just kind of, the eyes to go on him, where it allows maybe some others to excel. So that was interesting to see. Pedri gets to start, and as we all know, Pedri was only able to last 2 minutes because of what Tony Cruz did. Carvajal, Nomad, Laporte, and Cucurella. I was wondering if Cucurella could maybe be, where you can get at Spain a little bit. I even said that last podcast. Lo and behold, Germany almost seemed to target him as well. And if not for a kind of an interesting kind of handball call, maybe they could have gotten a PK, and maybe they would have gotten the goal lead. Maybe we get into a PK situation. PKs in Germany probably wouldn't have necessarily suited Spain that well. Spain have gone out of the tournament the last two for PKs. They missed out in the World Cup, missed out in the last Euros to Italy. So that wouldn't necessarily been good. And Le Nomad was not necessarily doing well with when Fulkrug came on, or even before that, was not doing well with Havertz, was not doing well in that first half. And basically they changed him for Nacho, which was interesting. And then Nacho didn't necessarily do that well. So it looks like Spain's back line is maybe going to be reshuffled a little bit in their game versus France, and it's going to be a big call for their manager, because again, France, for being as awful as they are, they do have pace to get in behind, where all they need is a moment, and if they get one goal, if they get something on a counter, if they get something early, it is so hard to break them down, and to create any kind of chances on them. I think the only goal that they've conceded so far was a PK that Lewandowski scored. But I mean, they probably have been the best defense in the tournament. So that's kind of getting ahead of ourselves. So we get to the beginning, and here we have an early chance actually for Pedri. So it's a great ball. It's like 30 seconds into the game. So it's a great ball played by Nico Williams. Finds Morata posting up in the box. Morata lays it off to Pedri. He does get pretty good contact, but Neuer is able to make a comfortable save. You do wonder, because we saw Olmo, put this chance away. Maybe Olmo would have done a little bit better here, but it was just you see the intent early with Spain. Nico Williams was having a lot of joy, going against Joshua Kimmich, and that'll be another thing to think about too. The way that Rafael Leao was able to just basically uh, make the French center back Koundé make him want to retire. Now Koundé is supposed to be a really good defender. Maybe Nico Williams can kind of do something similar. We'll have to see. So early chance for Spain, and maybe Tony Cruz kind of took note of that, because he went on a mission to take a couple players out with a couple really reckless challenges. Anthony Taylor doesn't caution him, and that basically sets the tempo for the game. I think didn't necessarily get the best first half because of that. Where early yellow would have sent the message, don't do any of this, and because we see Rudiger basically take out Olmo after he came on a couple minutes later as well, with similar kind of reckless challenge, and just there was a lot of stoppage and starters in that first 30 minutes. It didn't. I said how entertaining this game was. The first half was not, because it was very stop and start, very cagey. But this took Pedri out, and then on came Danny Olmo, a different kind of player. And again, I do think both events kind of changed the game, because as we see, Olmo wins it for Spain basically. But in the beginning, I did think it was hurting them, because again, it's just Pedri isn't just going to stay ahead of the ball. Olmo was almost sitting underneath Alvaro Morata, where Pedri would have offered a little bit more of basically a three-man midfield in moments, where it would have been a little bit different to kind of to keep the ball basically. And I thought, for the first after that sub, the next 25 minutes or so, I thought Germany took over control of the game. basically, and you don't normally see that for Spain. So I thought that was kind of showing it. Rudiger taking out Olmo, already mentioned as well. So I did feel like after the Patriot sub, basically just Germany took to control the game with a little cruise. I thought Lenormand is gets brought down by Gundogan. Lenormand is completely asleep after it came across that Havertz is able to head. It's a decent header, but right to the keeper. Uh, but that said, Spain were still the better side at creating chances. So commentators noticed Nico Williams and Yamal almost playing together on the right side, giving Cucurella the wing to himself. And basically, what you did is you had two creative wide players to kind of feed off each other, do a little combination play in the box, and it was giving Germany just at least some fits. Not a whole lot of chances were coming from this, but it was something that was giving them fits. I thought there was one moment when because Nico Williams was on the touchline, Yamin Yamal was actually able to play a little more centrally. And Yamal was able to basically that was giving Todd a lot of fits. He didn't know who to mark or what to do, and Yamal turns Todd or turns Ta, and that led to a chance. Yamal probably could have done a little bit better. They said Yamal has the most shots in the tournament, other than Ronaldo for not scoring, which was interesting. Yamal that seems to be the one thing that maybe he's missing, but he's got everything else, and we'll get to. He had the final assist that opened up the game. So the first half, yeah, not neither keeper was really asked to play or to work that much, so we didn't see a whole lot of shots on target. It was still entertaining because I did like how both teams wanted the ball. Both teams were flying to it. Both teams were trying to press and win it back. Both teams were playing high defensive lines. There was space for both teams to attack if they wanted it that way. Both teams were trying to play. Which we haven't seen in a couple of these. So we get to the second half. We did to get some changes. So Lay Nomad off, Nacho on, Emre Chan off for Andrick on, and Chan again seemed to be his idea was to be maybe played for his recovery, but what's funny enough is he just kept losing Olmo getting behind him. Andrick is maybe better at staying deeper. Maybe Andrick offers a little more in the final third. But I think the interesting thing also was hearing that the idea was about Fabian Ruiz, and you didn't really hear much of Fabian Ruiz, actually getting on the ball. So maybe in that respect it worked. But the funny thing is they still allowed Rodri to get on the ball, and Rodri was again amazing. Coming into this, he probably was the consensus best midfielder in the world. I think he's the consensus best player in the world at the moment. And the only thing I'm thinking about is he's had 3 or 4 years where he just hasn't had a break, and eventually the legs are going to not be able to do what he is doing, which isn't necessarily great for Man City. But just Rodri, the ability to always be at the right spot, seems to always find the right pass. Even when he's being pressured, he's not really phased by that either. I think I saw a stat. He's when he receives the ball, he's the quickest to release it. And normally, not only does he release it faster than anyone else playing in the tournament, he's the most progressive with it. He's really forward minded with his passes. He is all complete, really. So it was interesting to see here. They tried to take Fabian Ruiz out, not necessarily Rodri. Now maybe you can't take Rodri out. I don't know. But that was interesting. And then Leroy Sané came off for Florian Wirtz. And again, Sané has looked off it all tournament. And it was a big call to set Florian Wirtz, but Nagelsmann made that change in the second half, and you still had the spacing issue. There were still sometimes when Musiala and Wirtz were kind of in the same positions, but again, Wirtz on the ball just offers you a little something different that just Sané just didn't have confidence. Wirtz had loads of confidence, and basically that as we know that helped at least get it to extra time. Uh, and then we have a couple early chances for Germany here, or I guess it's Spain. So the Yamal basically threads the ball to find Morata. Nice little turn in the box. It gets around Ta. The shot fires wide. But then 5 minutes later, Spain do get their goal. So Morata is good at losing his marker here. Picks up spaces to receive the ball, carrying it upfield, and he gets it from a great pass from Laporte. That was another thing that was noticeable to me too. How much better Spain's center backs were on the ball than necessarily Germany's back line. Rudiger has a little of that in him, but I thought Ta was really, really poor and was kind of scared. Now you always have Cruz. Ta can just pass it to Cruz, and that's how you can kind of get around with it. But I thought it was a bit of a surprise. They went with Ta over, say, Schlotterbeck, and I guess they did it because Ta is maybe a little bit better defensively. I can't really That's the only thing I can think about. I thought it was a mistake not to play Schlotterbeck, because Schlotterbeck has some of that passing in him. He has that vision in him that I think they were lacking a little bit. And I think it's fitting here that Laporte has really a key kind of line breaking pass to find Murata, and that Murata's position here. Still, when he collects it, he still has people ahead of the ball. So when Harry Kane does this, there's no one. There's no when he gets the ball. There's no one for him to play anything forward to. When Murata gets the ball here, you see Fabian Ruiz almost, running into that spot. So Fabian Ruiz is in the box almost as the striker now, and he's taking the attention on their center backs. When Murata gets the ball, he also has Yamal, to possibly, make a run upfield, and basically he does. He asks Yamal to chase the ball. Yamal gets it, and then he waits for his options. And basically, what happens is David Rahm is giving Yamal almost too much respect. Really, he doesn't get enough tight enough to close down. Yamal just waits for Olmo to make a disguised run that just basically doesn't get picked up. Everyone is Andrlik thinks Fabian Ruiz is covered. Tony Cruz doesn't think there's any kind of danger there as well. And Yamal just sees Olmo just making a disguised run. It's not picked up, and he plays it at the right time. It's just the timing on it basically creates the goal, and then Olmo is able to first time it into the net. And so lots of ways for Germany to have prevented this, but still, it's good movement, and it deserved a goal, and that's what we got. But then we get a couple of changes for Germany. So we get David Raum off, Milistad on, Fulkrug on for Gundogan. I thought that was a bit of a surprise. He kept Havertz on. And then we saw a couple changes for Spain. Yamal off for Ferran Torres. Surprising to say the least. Maybe Yamal was tired. That could be the case. But for Ferran Torres is more of kind of a finisher, kind of a kind of a finisher into the box. He doesn't necessarily he doesn't offer you that counter threat, that kind of 1v1 ability that Yamal was able to do to basically freeze a fullback. So I thought Spain got worse with that change, and we get a couple chances really in a row for Germany after they brought Fulkrug on. So there's an Andrick shot. It's from distance, and I think it is forced to be saved. So just a ball sent in. Fulkrug wins the header over Cucurella, knocks it into the box, knocks it down. Germany get the rebound, shots blocked, but then I get the Germany are able to find Andrick on a layoff, and then we have Havertz. So every time it felt like Germany had the ball, they were looking for Fulkrug or Havertz in the box, and Spain are just kind of struggling defending these balls looped in. And then we have Fulkrug off the post, so a quick counterattack. Kemmik's able to play a ball to Wirtz. Wirtz is able to sprint, so Wirtz does well to show that he can play on the right. Has a sprint. He beats Cucurella for pace, and then has a really nice cutback cross. Has a nice square ball that finds Fulkrug, and Fulkrug does everything he's supposed to do. He's just really unlucky. He basically he beats Nacho, um, and it goes to ground trying to basically slide this in, and he beats the keeper. He's just denied by the post, and then we have a couple more subs for Spain. So Morata off, Macrel, Moreno on the DMs. We have a striker off for a DM, and then you see Nico Williams come off for Ozalabal. Basically to play as a false nine. So it's an entirely different kind of Spanish look after this point. It almost seemed like Danny Olmo ended up kind of moving over to right wing after this. So they changed a little bit of how they were trying to play. Maybe Marino was trying to be a little bit more of a DM. But the problem for Spain was you didn't really need to defend necessarily another midfielder to make things hard to build through the midfield, because Germany weren't really interested in building through the midfield. Germany were just going wide with either Kimmich or Millerstadt, and they were just sending hopeful crosses into the box, and it was giving Spain hell. So we have another chance for Havertz here, and this was this was the major moment. So this is I think in the 80th minute, a super poor ball by Unai Simon, who has a brilliant tournament with a number of his saves. He actually did make a number of big saves in this game as well. But we saw this versus Croatia, a couple of times when he does, hit a ball poorly right to the defending or the opposing team. And here Laporte can't do anything with it. There's a misplaced touch, and Havertz is able to sprint on the bad touch, has Simon dead to rights with the chip. Havertz does everything he's supposed to do, and it just gets it wrong. I don't necessarily think it is the howler that people have suggested, because he has to take it with his left foot. There could have been, as we've seen in this tournament and ever seen Copa. some players that have had this opportunity have tried to, get it back on their right foot, or not taken this opportunity because it was on their weak foot. So it is unfortunate. Havertz does what he's supposed to do. He gets good height on it. It's just too much power on it. But they had some on, dead to rights, but it doesn't really matter because they do get the goal with Wirtz. So here first, Rudiger has the ball. Germany have so many bodies into the box. There's Havertz, Fulkrug, Thomas Muller has come on, and he's helping out as well. Musiala is 6 feet. And then Kimmich has also made a run after he passes it to Rudiger. So Rudiger first sends a floated ball. Havertz as well to initially bring it down. And then actually Wirtz is there to help keep the ball alive as well. They play it to Cruz, they recycle, they play it out wide to Millerstadt. Millerstadt crossed into the back post, so it's good delivery by Millerstadt, who'd come on for David Raum. Cucurella beaten easily by Kimmich, and it's just a knockdown header. And this time, Wirtz is just in the right place, right time, and he's able to get on the end of the volley to find the end of the net in the uh, in the 87th minute. So it was also fitting. It was fitting for Wirtz at that moment. The player that was benched last game started on this game. Benched as well, and in the end, just Nagelsmann decided to throw his best players on to make it work. Almost Southgate like, you can say. And at least here, it did. But Germany, it wasn't enough as we see, and they did have some moments. I thought they were the better team in extra time as well. So I was, did Spain's manager maybe react too soon by taking some of his key players off because it was not the same Spain team. Yeah, Spain could not keep the ball. Spain could not really, they could keep it a little bit, but they could not really progress with it. They couldn't go long with it. They didn't have anyone. It was Olmo and Ferran Torres on the wings with Olazabal as for kind of false nine. So you can't really go long with him. You didn't have anyone that could really create 1v1. Uh, I thought Spain basically needed Hosselu to come on just help someone with some height to go long and maybe win some knockdown balls. Just the way that Fulkrug was causing so much hell, maybe Spain could kind of do that too. They didn't have that physical presence anymore. And then Hosselu came on for Fabian Ruiz. Uh, and we do have a couple moments for Germany before we get to Spain. So here we have Wirtz with a chance to go ahead. A great ball by Musiala from the left, top of the box, gets good contact, but just drags the shot a little wide. And then we get to the controversy. So again, Fulkrug is the target on a ball floated into the box. He wins it, lays it backwards to Musiala to have a strike. It hits the outstretched arm of Mark Cucurella. Uh, I think it would have been harsh had this been given, but as we've seen in the EPL the entire last year, this kind of stuff was because Anthony Taylor didn't give it in real time. It didn't seem like they had enough to overturn it, but the German press were furious about this. They think it's a howler. They're kind of blaming this for why they've been knocked out. I think it's possible also Fulkrug was offside. They didn't really look at that. Uh, Also, it looks like maybe Fulkrug used his arm to control the ball initially in the first place. It didn't seem like they necessarily looked at that either. So maybe it's the right call in the end. It would have been harsh, but again, you have seen this given throughout the year. And then we have a Kimmich cross that finds Fulkrug in the box. Again, Fulkrug does everything he's supposed to do, wins the 50-50 header, gets good contact, forces him on to make a save. Also, Fulkrug is basically being pulled to the ground, and he's getting just it's almost like a back header. He does an amazing job to at least get this to where it forces him on to make a dive. It's a good reaction to Dave. But this could have gone in. This could have sneaked in as well. So it did feel like Germany were the team that really did have the momentum, and then all of a sudden Spain get the goal out of nowhere, and it comes from a throw in. So Spain win a couple 50-50s here. Cruz basically is bodied off the ball by someone, and then Carvajal gets it. And has a really nice switch ball to find Marc Cucurella completely open on the other side of the field. So the one problem again with playing an unstructured team, which what Germany was doing at that point, is you have Wirtz kind of cheating inside a little bit, and him and Muller were basically marking the same guy. It's Rodri. So you understand trying to mark Rodri out of the game, but you left that entire side of the field completely open, and basically Cucurella is able to get it, plays it to Danny Olmo, and then Mark Cucurella continues to run, and they're too late. Spain is too late to basically get anyone tight enough to stop Danny Olmo hitting across. And that is the point when Spain have three players waiting into the box. Germany have three center backs marking each other as well. But it's the cross. It's the cross and the timing of the cross that gets in between the defense. Basically, Rudiger is beaten by the cross. Uh, and the quality of it just kind of takes Rudiger out of position, and Marino basically acts like a world class number 9. The way he positions his body, goes in the air to go after the ball, and what a header! And there you go, Mikel Moreno, not the player you would have expected to be the hero, but sometimes again that is what you needed. Another thing too is Hosselu. Hosselu creates this goal. And I haven't really seen anyone make this point. So Hosselu is basically in a tangle with Walterman, Anton, and that's why Rudiger is alone. If Hosselu is not here, I think Germany's able to double up and stop this and stop Moreno from being able to get to the ball. But Hosselu is basically taking Anton completely out of it, and Rudiger has to go it alone. So Hosselu being in and just being a presence, drew the center back attention. It mattered. And there'll be no Morata versus France, so we'll see if Hosselu features for them as well. And Hosselu, saved Real Madrid in the Champions League in the dying moments. Both coming at Manuel Neuer's expense. So Manuel Neuer doesn't really like Hosselu, I imagine. And then there was a chance for Fulkrug to have a late chance to take it to PKs. Again, does everything right here. Just the header just goes too far wide. But that was really the theme of the game, and really it was hard for me not to just come to a conclusion that it, it is so much easier to me to be able to develop players that can deliver a good cross into the box. I'm almost sounding like Sean Dyche here. A good cross into the box, that's someone that can just get on the end of a header. You don't even have to get it on goal. You just have to knock it down. You just have to create some chaos. And if you have numbers in the box, eventually the ball is going to find you. And maybe you have guys that can put it away, put things away there. But I just think it's much easier to me to develop a way to play this way than to have a lot of technical players that look like Xavi and Iniesta everywhere. Now Spain can do that, uh, but also it's not a Xavi or Iniesta kind of goal that ends up winning the game for them. It's just a ball into the box, well timed hit cross, and a well placed header. So I think at least thinking of the U.S. going forward, this is something we need to really think about finding a ways to. And normally we play this way with World. Normally we have a lot of balls into the box, but I don't know. I keep kind of going to what the U.S. can do, but it's not about the U.S. So yeah, the kind of full time thoughts on the game was Pedri's injury factored in in both ways. Maybe not ways we were really expecting. It really was though entertaining to watch both teams sprinting to the ball, both teams geniuses understanding how to deal with pressure. Spain weren't just sitting back as well; they were trying to win the ball. To be fair to them as well, and you didn't see teams hiding. You didn't see players hiding from the ball. Uh, Both teams had an idea of how to advance with it, and just the game basically changed when both teams got into the final third, where as we've seen with a couple of the other games that we watched, we didn't necessarily see that. So 18 shots and 6 on target, 23 for Germany and 5, just a number coming in the second half for Germany, 13 versus 3. So it almost flipped. Germany only had 3 in the first half. 1.4 xG for Spain and 2.15. Extra time was lively too, which we don't always see. So 3 big chances missed for Spain, for Germany. Possession about even, which you really like seeing. Germany with more touches in the penalty area, which was surprising. 45. Then again, the second half really was played in Spain's corner. Final third entries though about the same. So kind of what I was talking about. So really good number for both teams. 67 and 71. The crosses though was telling as well. Spain only 4 out of 9, and it's a cross that ends up winning the game for them, and Germany were 12 of 23, that's quite a good percentage as well. You don't normally see that, and about 500 passes for both. Uh, the only thought with Spain was, did the manager maybe make a mistake, taking too many players off when he did, and also Olmo and Marino, 2 subs that come on as Hosselu, were the difference maker. And to talk about Olmo, he really did make the best of his situation, created 3 chances as well as the assist and goal. Different player than Pedri, again, more attack minded. But sometimes, again, that is what you need when you get in the final third. You need someone to because Olmo was also doing some clever stuff with the ball, some clever triples as well. Uh, and he had a couple finishes. He had a couple shots that maybe could have at least forced a save. Again, it is a little bit more of a threat than Pedri would offer. So the loss was maybe a little bit of a blessing and really unfortunate for Pedri. He just can't seem to be to not be injured. He's like a Xavi region at 21 years old, but he's always hurt. Uh, but we probably I don't know if we necessarily seen the last of him or not. Uh, but Olmo took the best of his opportunity, and so there you go. And Fabian Ruiz, again, the role was interesting as well because one of the reasons when Murata dropped for the Olmo goal, Fabian Ruiz was the player that was ahead. It's just kind of recognizing you have to at least have someone in that spot at all times. Now you can switch it off on who is who. He's also 6'2", so he's a body that can also be a threat in the air. And when Yamal has that cross to Olmo, again, Fabio Ruiz has taken the attention from basically two center backs and Anderlecht, and that's the reason why Olmo is able to get on to the ball unmarked as well. So it's just that kind of cleverness, that high IQ, that's in a lot of these Spanish players. It's also with Fabian Ruiz, and Fabian Ruiz, he hasn't really been always everyone's favorite at PSG. I think he was in the Italy before he went to PSG. He was always talked about as someone that was. He's never been talked about necessarily like Rodri, but he's always been someone that's been kind of talked about it, but not necessarily not really praised in this kind of manner. And he's really had a fantastic tournament for them. Also, Laporte on the ball again. It was so much different the way that Spain were able to play through lines with their center backs than necessarily Germany will. And then Yoel's decision making. Again, he hasn't scored yet, but the way he's able to, he just recognizes when to play that final ball. He's got like 3 or 4 assists. Uh, there's a reason why people are comparing to Neymar, Barca's Neymar. Just the timing and decision making is and with the delivery, it's spot on. And the way he's able to terrorize people, 1v1, and he's only 16, and for 16-year-old, he was terrorizing. He got to the point where he terrorized David Rams so much, they took him off. They took him off from Middlestad. So, matchup for Spain, Dembele versus Marc Cucurella. No idea if he'll play, but the way Dembele was able to look versus Portugal, you imagine it. No Carvajal again, so Jesus Navas, potentially Mbappe or Barcola. Doesn't really sound ideal for Spain. Ledemed, Laporte, Nacho, all have struggled with pacey attacks, so we'll see if that shows up. And then no Murata, so we'll see what Hosselu does. And then to end with Germany, like again, Nagelsmann got a little too cute, taking Gundogan off maybe a little earlier than possibly he should have. Now they didn't really care about necessarily progression through the midfields. Maybe they didn't really feel like they needed Gundogan, but Gundogan, as he's shown versus Man City, is so clever in the box. He almost like recognizes when the ball is going to fall. I feel like maybe he could have you could have helped him out, but you can't really say that the change was wrong because Germany took over the game when a game that they were losing because of these subs. So that kind of worked out. Havertz had some key headers, or Havertz didn't really have a bad game, but he just had. That's kind of the way that's what he is as a player. He has a lot of good things that don't always necessarily show up, and then he has that marquee mistake that everyone always remembers. And unfortunately for him, that's just where he's at. And the only way for him to really get away from that is he's got to have a marquee moment himself that maybe wins a game or wins a title. That's the only way to kind of get out of these kind of narratives. Unfortunately for him, I mean, still a good player, but it does feel like this is he's going to look back and regret this because he had so many. I think he had the most chances or maybe Ronaldo did, but it was him and Ronaldo had so many looks this tournament created for them, and just he wasn't able to take it. So fortunate there. The decision to go with Ta over Schlotterbeck, I mentioned, didn't really understand that. Emre Chan over Anderlecht. I like the idea, I guess, but it didn't really work with it's Anderlecht and Cruz just seemed to offer them a little more steady midfield, I guess. It was a surprise. And I guess he switched at halftime, so it didn't really kill them. He switched at halftime, and it was still 0-0. So that's not the reason why this ended. Uh, and then I think the only thing the closing thing to say is the second best team in the tournament just unlucky to draw Spain before the final. So I just think they need to figure that out. Also, maybe get away with the third place kind of finishes. Maybe expand the tournament where you have more groups. And it would be nice to kind of see Norway in this, or Ireland, uh, or Wales. Now it would make qualifying kind of useless, but it would be nice to have a like expanded tournament there where you have more groups and you just have second places or first and second place go through. No more of this third place finish stuff because it makes groups weird like this. There was no reason for this not to have been at minimum a semifinal or a final. And basically Germany's punished for they won all their games. Had Germany just lost that game versus Switzerland or allowed Switzerland to be winners of the group, they would have gotten the other draw. They would have gotten England instead, or Germany would have beaten England, in my opinion. So I don't think that's necessarily right. And also, again, just the way the Fulkrug was never really trusted. I think was messed up. We've seen Ringhorst kind of not really trusted for Netherlands. All both did was come off the bench and be basically superstars coming off the bench. Now again, when Fulkrug came on, I think it was still near 0-0. So it's not really like not starting him cost them the game, but I've been a little bit surprised about that. So that's where we are with Spain and Germany, and then we'll move on to France and Portugal. I won't spend nearly as much time because this game was a bit of a snooze fest. So, uh, coming into this, I think Roberto Martinez let Portugal down. And maybe not necessarily Ronaldo. Ronaldo didn't have his best, but also the two are linked because Roberto Martinez never took Ronaldo out. Even a game that Portugal didn't have to win, they used Ronaldo's legs to maybe tire him out versus Georgia when you could have just sat him. And they did it because they wanted him to get a goal. Ronaldo had more shots than anyone this tournament without scoring. He had a couple of moments here to score and actually basically win Portugal the game. And just there's one in extra time where I think uh, just a year or two ago, he buries and he just he has the clever movement to get around. I think Upamecano or Saliba, and and he does, and the ball finds him. I think it's Conceição, kind of cross that finds him, and he just he slices it out of bounds. Um, so that's just where we're leading off. We didn't really have too much to really talk about. Uh, and so we'll just kind of get started. So the first 20 minutes basically was the Rafael Leao and Mendes show. France just looked to be lost trying to handle their runs, and the only negative to me was just Leao and Mendes both were getting into so many dangerous moments. Both have failed to make the right decision in the final third to execute a well placed cross. But France really were all over the place. In the beginning, it felt like eventually after 20 minutes, Didier Deschamps did make a tweak, or at least Camavinga and Conte made a tweak. But also, to start the game, he kind of changed the starting line as well. So France were not good versus Belgium. And he tried Griezmann almost like on the right side and almost a 4-3-3 kind of shape. Did not really work out at all. They've not been able to find a way to fit Mbappe with a striker that he's like. So what they did here is they tried Mbappe and Colomwani almost like a front two with Griezmann kind of underneath. Uh, Theoretically, it's supposed to allow Griezmann to create, and you've got two runners ahead of him. So it's supposed to get more out of Griezmann. And I think the opposite happened. It was best possibly the least amount of work or the action that Griezmann has seen. And out of possession, France's shape was just absolutely awful. The other thing that was not really great was Colomwani was not helping out defensively when Portugal were having able to have Mendes make a run from the fullback spot. And the other thing too was they had Camavinga, Chouameni, and Conte, and that was the other story coming into this. There was no Rabiot that was able to play, so Deschamps had to play Camavinga, a guy that he hasn't always really liked, which I don't understand because Camavinga to me was maybe player of the game. Uh, but in the beginning, Conte was played a little bit more on the left hand side, or on the right hand side. Camavinga was on the left, and Conte was not able to help with any kind of recovery runs, and Portugal were living down that side. It seemed like Camavinga switched with Conte after about 20 minutes, so that helped out a little bit. And another thing too is it's gotten to a point where I'm seeing Chouameni on the ball, and I can't help but see Declan Rice. World class number six, understand, but I just feel like I want because you're in the middle of the field, you need someone better on the ball at this kind of level, especially versus a team that is kind of sit against you. You need to have players that can play through lines. Tchouaméni has a lot of lovely switches in his locker. Tchouaméni isn't necessarily bad on the ball; he can carry it, but he doesn't have that pass in him. He, you and what's funny enough, it is very Declan Rice like because when you look, you'll be like, oh, he had 99%, pass accuracy. And then you look at the pass map, and that's why everything is sideways, safe, and backwards. Camavinga in that position instead, I think makes them better, and that's something that my friend suggested to me when he was watching this. I agree with him. Maybe you can play Chouamini as your 8. It seems like he could maybe do that job. But it's funny, Deschamps doesn't like playing Camavinga either, and I think it's also funny for Real Madrid. They got to a point where they were playing Tchouaméni almost at center back, and just Camavinga almost feels like he's a better 6. Now he doesn't necessarily hold. Maybe that's what you want out of you. You want just basically a an additional center back that's just really good at ball recovery, really good at winning the ball back, really good at giving you protection. And there is a reason why France have been so good defensively. It's not just been Saliba and Upamecano; it's been Tchouaméni as well. But there's also a reason why France have been so bad on the eye and they haven't been able to create a whole lot of chances outside of getting Mbappe the ball on the wing and just praying he does something individually because they can't play through the middle. So that is one of the reasons why. So again, it wasn't really working in the beginning for them. Conte was getting destroyed, so Conte moved over to the other side where he only had to deal with Cancelo basically, which isn't always the easiest task either. But it wasn't necessarily the same kind of threat. Also, Bernardo Silva was the winger on that side as well, and as we saw in this game, Bernardo Silva hurt them as well. So that changed maybe won France's game because in the second half, Camavinga had an amazing block on Mendes or Leal that basically saved a goal. 70% of the ball for Portugal in the first 20 minutes. So was a bit of a surprising to see the different shape, and it didn't really work. And another thing that was kind of annoying is after both teams kind of settled in again from the 20 minutes to the end of the first half. Neither team cared about pressing high. Both teams basically played a mid block out of possession. Neither team were seemed interested trying to pass through it. France didn't have a shot in the first 20 minutes. I think Teo Hernandez got the first one with a strike from distance. Then they made a second chance with Mbappe, created by Camavinga, win the ball off Bruno Fernandes, and then France quickly able to attack down down the left side. Mbappe is able to beat Cancelo for pace, getting to the byline, but there's no one really to aim anything in the box, and his cross is defended by Costa sticking a glove out. So the halftime thoughts was 2 shots versus 3, not great. Both teams were looking to only advance the ball on the wings, and once there, the options were limited. And as good as Ronaldo is, he's got both Upamecano and Saliba dressed over him. It's going to be a hard cross to really beat him. Uh, and then France just had Colin Muani to aim at as well. And Portugal's Pepe was doing a pretty good job for the most part, of sticking with Colin Muani, as was Ruben Diaz. And as we saw in the second half, that really showed up. Not just with Colin Muani, just in general. Uh, and the only thing you could think about is the few times when you had Pepe maybe kind of stretching a little bit, you had Ruben Diaz stretching a little bit. It was Colin Muani or Marcus Thuram in those situations, or even Dembele, and not Mbappe. And that's probably the one thing that France, if had France had actually lost this game, they probably would have looked at that as saying not ideal. They would have needed to fix that. But also the lack of imagination from both teams. They would get the ball, both would get the ball in pretty good areas, and just the kind of crossing would be about the same. It would just be kind of hopeful, just praying that someone would get on the end of it. There was no really thought behind it, and we saw in the second half there was a little more idea to how they would cross the ball. Maybe try a cutback here and there, as we see. So, and then with France basically the thoughts with France is France have turned into England just with Mbappe. And again, I did put down Declan Tchouaméni. Uh, Again, Portugal have a 41-year-old Pepe playing, and France couldn't get past him. Dembele, Mbappe, Giroud in the front, I think would probably give them a little more balance. We haven't seen that. Maybe sit Griezmann. Griezmann just hasn't worked. Griezmann, even as your 10, because it feels like he doesn't offer you anything out of possession. Mbappe is never really going to run at people either because the idea is to allow him to be able to play really high up to where you can get a ball over the top and you can use him to counter. So he's never really going to be one to really work without the ball anyway. He's trying to save his legs. You can't also do Griezmann that's not really doing any kind of work without the ball either. He was a traffic cone. Usually when they play Griezmann doesn't. I mean, when they play Giroud doesn't really help with that respect either. But when France do get on the wings and they do have a counter attack, Giroud at least offers you something to aim into the box. So it hasn't really been the best French team, but they've been able to I think the only goal, the only people that have scored have been there's been an own goal. Colin Murray created their own goal, and I think it's been just Mbappe on a PK, and France have just been able to get into a semifinal somehow. They still have enough to beat Spain though. And I think they did beat Spain in a Nations League, 2 or 3 years ago. But different Spain team. So and different maybe a different French team. Another thing too is Portugal had 6 corner kicks in the first 20 minutes, and just all of them were poor. Portugal really were all over France, and just they're gonna be looking at this and saying, "What a missed opportunity." I mean, Rafael Leao looks like the second coming of Mbappe in one moment, and then the next Bebe, formerly of Man United, on the other. He's got the tools to be legit world class, and you just see he's not there yet. And he is getting close to 24, so you wonder if that ever is going to develop or not. If he's not getting it at AC Milan, he needs to go where someplace he will develop it because he's got all the physical tools to be legit world class. And when I say world class, I mean if you other than maybe Mbappe, who else would you want to play in that position? If you were having to pick a world 11, in a draft, basically, you can pick anyone you want. The people that you pick for that team is the quote unquote world class. Maybe you have a second team. Liao has the traits, has the physical component, the gifts to be that. And just when it comes to the final decision making, he's not there yet. And you do wonder if he is going to develop that or not. Uh, Too many times I've seen him, get into unbelievable positions, just absolutely terrorizing fullbacks, and then just making the absolute worst decision possible. Where I thought, a Neto or even a Jota probably helps you better because it doesn't matter how many times you're able to beat your man 1v1 if you're not really able to create anything out of that. It's nice for highlights, but anyways, that's just kind of getting at something else, and then not being able to just find Ronaldo. Also, I don't understand Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes together. That has been a bit of a thing I've kind of harped on really the entire tournament. So we saw it again here. I just think Portugal would have done better just to play another wide attacker on the right side to offer runs ahead, whip crosses in, maybe play with Cancelo a little bit. I think that would have given them a better look, and it didn't seem like France cared about Bernardo Silva. And the reason why I say that is with the way that they were using Teo Hernandez, he was almost like France's left winger at times. That allows Mbappe to play a little more inside. You wouldn't have been able to do that if you had someone with pace like a Neto that would have been able to counter as well. So you could have found a way to maybe take France a little bit out of their game plan by just switching the personnel a little bit, and they didn't. It felt like a Neto or Count Cancel would maybe hurt the France game plan, and we did see Cancel come in, and frankly enough, he created a couple chances. So it's just we didn't see it. We didn't see it early enough. So the second half was better, at least for our sake. So I will say that decent chance early here for Mbappe. So a little 1-2 with Conte. Basically, Mbappe plays it to Conte, then continues his run back, gets it on the run. Something that Messi does. But the point of this is to get your star player on the move. That way, it's so much harder for a defender that's stagnant to adjust, especially with someone with the pace of Mbappe. Gets a shot. It's well hit, just right at the keeper. Then we get a couple minutes here where France maybe get lucky that Upamecano pulls out trying to recover on Mendes. Mendes nearly draws a PK. Koundé completely beaten in the box, near disaster. Again, Griezmann just doing nothing as Bruno nearly just orchestrates this all by himself. Koundé is forced to mark both Mendes and Leao. They're able to, I think it's a little flick, but by Leao plays Mendes in. Bruno slips the ball in behind him. Colomwani lets Mendes go unmarked. Griezmann allows Bruno to just get the ball with no one near him. And, someone with Bruno I normally go with Bruno too. One thing I can say about Bruno, he does have an eye for a pass. He's not afraid to play that kind of ball. It's not always a Hollywood ball. Normally, it's the right ball to play. Bruno nearly created this by himself too, and it would have been deserved at this point. It really would have. Then we have Portugal did another corner kick, and this was when it proves costly because Mbappe's mask kind of basically banks off the ball and runs into his nose, pushing pressure on the nose. And Mbappe eventually has to go off because of that. Just Bernardo. Finally, Portugal were able to at least find a player on a corner kick, and it's fortunately for them, it's Bernardo Silva. And then Bernardo Silva's header. It's probably going to be a good header. But Mbappe's in the way, and it flies basically the side of his face, and the mask brushes up against the nose. Then we have Leao. Basically looking like he has the better of Camavinga near the byline, looking for a cutback cross, only for Camavinga to stick a leg out last second. Absolutely brilliant recovery. I mean, this play of the game at this point. And again, Portugal just deserved at this point to have won the game. France was sitting off. it was too easy to drag Koundé out of position and to slip in Leao or Mendes behind him. Koundé had no idea what to do. He didn't really have a whole lot of help. Camavinga was helping out in between with some recovery. Kolo Muani was doing nothing, allowing Mendes to run in behind him. And just that was what France was. France was just kind of just waiting for Portugal to give them the ball. And Portugal were quite good at really kind of keeping it themselves. And Portugal were good at just, finding the runs in behind with ease because France were just kind of ball watching. France did not deserve to go through. And then we have a couple chances as well. So we have Bruno and Vitinha. So really nice forward run by Bruno. Gets in the box. Really nice, lovely pick out by Yao Cancelo. Brilliant low pass outside the boot here. Bruno forces a good save out of Mignon. And again, just Portugal, still Portugal kept the ball, and then Cancelo had an effort that just missed. But again, Tchouaméni just allows Bruno to slip by him. Saliba is caught out of position because he is focused on it's either Bernardo Silva or someone else, and basically Bruno is able to run in behind, and that could have been a goal as well, and that would have been deserved. And then we get another chance by Vitinha. This is probably my favorite chance created out of all the games. Should have really ended up in a goal. So here Bruno drops the show for the ball. Bruno was running things that second half. No one follows him. No one, and then he turns. He has Vitinha further ahead. So that's another thing too. It's important when someone does drop for the ball that he at least has someone ahead of him. So Vitinha does well to get in behind, but he doesn't have a whole lot of space. And when Vitinha gets the ball, he has to turn quickly because he has Camavinga on his side chasing him, and Vitinha. I mean, Camavinga's like 6'2", maybe 6'3". Vitinha is like 5'7", maybe. And Vitinha just does really well to excellent to shield the ball. Camavinga can't get to him without fouling him. And then he's able to find Leao, and then Leao continues. If Leao goes on a sprint, takes on Koundé, beats him again, has a nice little cut, and Leao finally finds a teammate with a well timed cross or well timed through ball, picks out a teammate. Vitinha continued his run, and Vitinha is right there, and he gets a strong hit, and it's just right at Mignon. And again, Tchouaméni lets it go unmarked. So Tchouaméni did not have his best game. Could have cost him here on those two chances. And then we have the French chance, a big one for Kolo Muani. So as good as those chances were, this was equally as big. So it comes after France had just defended a Portugal attack. Mendes basically gambled. Saliba has a really nice, clever pass to keep the ball out of pressure. And then the long switch finds Muani, keeps the ball from going out of bounds, and then is able to basically it's kind of a 1-2 with Koundé. He gives the ball to Koundé. Muani continues his run, and Koundé just floats the ball, goes over Pepe. So it's the one time you're able to get in behind Pepe. And Kolo Muani opts not to chip Costa. He tries to beat him kind of low. This maybe is kind of just the way he likes going for goal because we saw this in the World Cup. Uh, and Ruben Diaz is just there to get the foot out and block it. And it's unfortunate the block doesn't take it past Costa to go in as well. It looks like this is possibly going wide, and it's very easily that this Diaz block could have directed it into the net instead. But if not, but it doesn't. Diaz is able to get the block to go the other way. Uh, Shot was maybe going wide, but this was a moment, and again, finally able to get behind Pepe, and it's just you didn't have the right person you wanted for the finish. So Deschamps had seen enough, didn't like the shape, took Griezmann off, put Dembele on. Three attackers now. You had someone to get the ball on the width. You had someone to get when we got on the ball. Could finally basically run with it. Could take players on 1v1 to draw Portugal a little bit out of position. You don't think Pepe is going to be that movable. Make that into a liability. Make Mendes having to defend 1v1 because even the announcers mentioned how Nuno Mendes in the Champions League semifinal got roasted by Jadon Sancho. So it just there was you make Mendes defend because he was killing you offensively. So this basically changed the game entirely, and France possibly could have won it after that. So we have a number of chances for France. So we have Menendez basically having a big block to stop Mbappe, having a shot, basically found by Dembele, and then we have Camavinga basically chance of the game. So Dembele again with 2 minutes did more than Griezmann did the whole game. He draws Pepe and Mendes onto him. Then a little cross finds Camavinga behind Pepe, and Camavinga just swipes his right foot and just puts a little too much side spin on it. Again, it's more unfortunate than necessarily a howler, but it was a big chance missed. But this also came because basically Dembele is already just scaring Portugal left and right. So Pepe thought he had to help out on Mendes, and basically you have 2v1, and that leaves someone open in the box, and that's where Camavinga was, and this probably should have been a goal as well. And then we have a Dembele shot just missing from curling from distance, and then Portugal made some changes, so took Bruno off. It was almost seemed like both teams started with almost a 4-2. Well, France started with a weird kind of formation. Portugal started with a 4-2-3-1. Bruno having that little 10 role that normally he plays with for Man United. It seemed like the idea was to move more to like a 4-3-3 to counter France's 4-3-3. So move Bernardo Silva into an 8, and you actually had Cancelo, and you had three attackers as well. But it did seem the move was kind of counterintuitive. It didn't necessarily, change a whole lot, at least, the way, because this happened like the 70th minute. Portugal didn't really fashion a chance after that, though in the second half they did a little bit better. And then there was a little moment before extra time when Dembele had a chance to maybe win it. Took players on again, and unfortunately, instead of going for goal, he tried to find Mbappe, and Mbappe couldn't do anything about that point, other than force a comfortable save for Costa. So we get to extra time. Uh, Big chance for Ronaldo, and again, it's Conceição. Conceição, a little bit better in extra time, is able to have a little burst of pace, surprises Teo Hernandez, is able to get to the byline, and that's an easy cutback ball. Ronaldo is just off balance when the ball comes to him, and it's just you don't really want to make excuses or not, but I think a younger Ronaldo finishes this with ease. And then we have the chance for Leao, big block by Upamecano. France can't deal with the cross, and then Silva's header finds Ronaldo instead. But Leao is there, and it looks like a sure goal, if not for Upamecano blocking this. And I'm going to pause it real quick. Alright, and we're back. So, the last few chances. So we had the Leao chance. Then Marcus Thuram had a moment as well, but his touch in the box just kind of let him down. Marcus Thuram has been a player that it seems like France just haven't really known how to really make him work, and you don't really know what they're going to do for Spain. If Mbappe can't go, we because Mbappe that was the other kind of the way how the story went as well. Mbappe can't continue. Barcola came on. He looks lively as well, but again, he didn't really have any end product either. I think the best that France have looked was Poland when you had Barcola playing on the left and you had Mbappe through the middle, and basically Mbappe and Barcola basically played off each other, and then you had Dembele on the other side. That to me, I think, is probably the best way that they can go about this. Give Mbappe almost a free roll. Also, when you play Mbappe through the middle, he has less defensive work, did less defensive duties. Now he doesn't really always love, being in there. He likes kind of being into the. He likes getting the ball basically on the left side. He likes that's where he likes receiving it. It doesn't really seem like he's the best kind of target man, and that's the only issue when you play him through the middle. He's not gonna be able to head the ball, because of that mask. So France are going to have some questions to see what they line up, and then Nuno Mendes at the end had a moment. Bernardo Silva did well to find him. Nuno Mendes actually did really well to even create the chance in the beginning with a nice little dribble, but the shot just kind of hit right at Mignon, and then to PKs, France made Diego Costa look human. Not really easy to do. And then it just comes down to Yao Felix. Yao Felix subbed on late. I just think he was cold. Wasn't the best PK. I don't even think Mignon saves it. I think it actually banks off the post. Short run up as well. That just seemed to not be good. As we saw versus England. Kind of fast forwarding a little bit. Akanji had a short run up. We saw in Brazil where I think it was Militao. Militao had a short run up. Also, I don't understand why center backs are taking your PKs. But that gets to something else. And this game, the second half was better than what we got in the first. It still wasn't necessarily a great, entertaining game. I think they said they were man of the match were Pepe and Saliba on the other end, which is not really normally that doesn't spell good for a great contest. I would probably say Camavinga. Camavinga was probably mine. Vitinha was also pretty good for Portugal as well, and just had Mendes or Leao had some end product, they probably would have had a decent shout for man of the match because they took France out of their game plan. Mbappe taking off could have been a story. Didn't take a PK. And then again, Spain will not have their first choice back line, so we'll see what France is able to do. So, I mean, France did have 20 shots, to Portugal's 15, 4 on target versus 5, about 1.4 XG for Portugal, 1.41 for France. France with 13 shots outside the box is surprising too. So they weren't really able to create a whole lot inside the box. So the 20 shots doesn't really doesn't tell the whole story. Big chances Portugal with 4-2 coming in extra time. France were not able to create in extra time. Two big chances for France over the 120 minutes. Portugal with majority of the ball. 11 corner kicks was 4 in Portugal's favor as well. Touches in the penalty area. Portugal with 29, France 25. Final third entries about even, 71 to 69. Crosses, Portugal with 3 for 34. They were trying to cross the ball a lot. Ronaldo effect or not, I think they were trying to look for Ronaldo. Uh, and you can argue, was that maybe to their detriment? I don't understand why they're trying to feature Ronaldo at this age. Why not play Ronaldo as a complement piece? Play him with a striker to kind of play with in the box. Maybe play either with a Yao Felix together, kind of close to each other, or with a Diego Jota. And just honestly, why didn't we see almost a 4-4-2, where you have wide creation from the wings. Now that takes Bruno out of what he likes doing. Bruno's been their most important player for the last 2 years, in qualifying and in their tournaments. So it just comes to a point where I'm almost at a situation where unless the number 10 is Kevin De Bruyne, I think Bruno is probably the second best number 10 at the moment. Uh, I think it's better to just play a 4-4-2 and have a second striker than necessarily a quote unquote number 10 kind of player. I think it suits you better. Whether it's a 4-4-2 or 4-2-4. Uh, I just think it would have suited Portugal shape a little bit better because you have Paulinho. Paulinho is a fantastic number 6 who can sit deep. So you allow Vitinha to go a little forward, or maybe you could play Bruno in that role. Anyways, I think Vitinha is a little bit better at that. I just think I would have given France more fits. To be honest, because too many times it was just a ball crossed into the box. It was just Ronaldo, with like France having Chouameni back there and Saliba and Upamecano. And just what's Ronaldo's really supposed to do? He did have a couple moments to win it, but just they weren't. Portugal's shape was off, and so that kind of showed. So we get to France again. You mentioned how the front line's not necessarily working. The midfield hasn't really been working either. You already mentioned the idea with Camavinga. Usually, it seems like the idea is just play 3 ball winners and then have Griezmann to be your Griezmann's their number 10. Griezmann was like their kind of Bruno. Bruno was way more involved, but still, it seems like that's what they're trying to do. And France has not worked out. Have not been able to figure out Griezmann as well, and just Griezmann hasn't really had necessarily a striker to really play with as well. He's been kind of struggling with that. I think Griezmann's been hurt by Giroud not being able to play. So we haven't seen Giroud. So I don't really think he's really the player to play with for Spain. But France need a focal man that they just haven't had the whole tournament. Whether it's Giroud, maybe it can be Marcus Thuram. It doesn't seem like it's going to be Kolo Muani. Uh, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what France does. Dembele was quite good coming off. Dembele, I didn't feel like he was having his best tournament in the beginning, but he looked really good coming in here. But again, as good as you are, not applying the end product yet. So we need to necessarily see that. Camavinga, I do think was maybe player of the match. Uh, but he also had the biggest miss. So, and that's kind of another thing too. When you play that kind of midfield 3, you don't really have someone that can make a run into the box and just kind of be a target man, just kind of from a disguised run. You don't think Tchouameni's going to do that. Camavinga's going to do that. Maybe Rabiot can do that. Rabiot might actually feature versus Spain. It seems like that seems to be the idea. Usually, Rabiot has actually been the one that's starting, and he didn't play this game because of suspension. But and again, I think the negative, the concerns I have for France going into to Spain. So I already mentioned how the positives are their pace, the pacey attack can maybe getting behind Spain. The negatives are when uh, the approach. The approach you can't just sit off Spain. The way that they were sitting off Portugal and just allowing Paulinho and Vitinha to just kind of work them in the middle, drawing Griezmann to come too far upfield only to slip something behind him. They kept doing that time and time again. Paulinho was really good at doing switches to find Rafael Leal in space to attack Koundé. Rodri and Nico Williams or Fabian Ruiz and Nico Williams can do the same. Uh, and Deschamps, stopped that a little bit by moving Camavinga over. But again, Deschamps doesn't always play Camavinga, and I don't know if we'll see him. Could we maybe see Rabiot left wing, Camavinga on the right wing, maybe sit Conte out? Maybe we see that. I don't know. But the other thing too is just how poor on the ball are Upamecano and Saliba. So it's not just one thing to have Tchouaméni that's poor on it. Upamecano and Saliba are also not really. It highlights the midfield being poor. You don't really have defenders that can do those line breaking passes that Laporte can do. So they can't find a pass to find Griezmann, bypassing 5 or 6 players that Laporte can do to find Danny Olmo. Um, so I don't know. I mean, Deschamps hasn't really been able to get the lineup right all tournament, but he hasn't really had to. So we'll see. We'll see what France again do. And then France also just had an election, and a lot of their players seem to be celebrating the result. So I don't know. Maybe the vibes will be good. And then with Portugal, Martinez did get things wrong, unfortunately. And you were worried coming into this that maybe that was probably going to happen, and it did. Also, not only these changes that he did disrupted their momentum, doing João Felix instead of Jota did not make sense to me. Or even a Neto. You had Neto on the bench as well, and unfortunately, his fix to bring on Felix, he misses the PK. Uh, the positives of Portugal is you had Real Madrid's midfield basically with Tchouaméni and Camavinga, and then you had Conte. And everyone's been praising Conte this tournament. So the two best midfielders on the pitch were Polina and Vitinha. And Bayern beating Polina honestly could be signing of the summer if he's still able to have his legs. That's a number 6 that is just really good at holding. Now maybe he's not really the best on the ball, yeah, but as far as just in the EPL, no one's better at making tackles and making stopping attacks and making recoveries. So and been a player that Bayern has needed, but also Vitinha. Vitinha again has been one of the more enjoyable players just to me to watch. The way he's able to receive the ball under pressure, turn, one away with it, and find a killer pass. Just didn't feel like enough players offer that, and that to me, he feels special. I think the commentator during the game mentioned he reminded him of a younger Modric, which I didn't know if I would go that far, but that even the commentator was noticing Vitinha in that kind of manner. I thought he was a little bit more of a younger Portugal that wise, almost like a younger Bernardo Silva. When Bernardo Silva used to kind of look like that before Bernardo Silva was playing on the wing for Man City. Uh, but we'll see. We'll see how he develops, and that's probably the end. Oh, that is the end of Portugal. Well, I guess we'll see what they do 2 years from now. Ronaldo had his moments, and he was able to play every game here. Will he be on the team in 2 years? It feels like he's not going to let that up. Will that hurt them though? If nothing else, they got to find something else to build with. Pepe put in some shift. They probably have to move on from him as well. Pepe was good in this game, but I thought he had a couple errors for Slovenia, and that's another thing too. Portugal could have easily lost to Slovenia. It had to go to PKs. Diego Costa was had to bail them out here, but they could have beaten France. And they had to go to PKs with France. So live by the PK, die by the PK. Uh, and I do think Roberto Martinez not trusting Jota more. I think hurt them as well. It seemed Diego Jota is just perfect for these kind of just really cagey, boxy games where there's no real ways to create anything. You just need someone to find a way to create some chaos into the box where you need someone to basically just make something that's not really explainable. That is what Jota is as a player, basically. That's the best way I can describe it. So that's France and Portugal, and then I'll move on to England and Switzerland. Probably not going to spend a ton of time on Netherlands and Turkey, so I'll probably focus most of my time on England and Switzerland. Not a lot of action though happened in the game, so I don't have to spend that much time. It is 1-1, then we get more penalty drama. But also, why would you want your center back to take your first PK? So that's kind of setting it up as well. So the leading story coming into this was I think fewer players were talked about more than Bukayo Saka. So that was kind of fitting, coming into this as well. And also, did Southgate learn his lesson versus Slovakia, where playing Ivan Toney kind of changed a little bit how they could play Harry Kane, but also Tony came on for Phil Foden. So how would Phil Foden play in this? There was all this talk that there would be a different lineup, And why was there and the reason for the lineup was it was supposed to get more out of Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham. And funny enough, we did. We did actually get that, but it gave them more problems than necessarily it solved. But it did give Saka a little bit of a better way to go about things. But that was another thing too. The idea with the lineup change, everyone's mock-ups had Saka playing on the left and Trippier playing on the right, and it was still Trippier on the left. And looking forward, if England do knock out because Shaw can't go, Southgate deserves to be fired for that reason, for basically picking Luke Shaw as his only left back, and he's not fit for the tournament. How you they I think they even expanded how many people you can keep on a team sheet. And Southgate did not bring another left back. He didn't even bring a left-footed defender other than Lewis Dunk. Uh, it's fireable. Anyways, we'll see if that shows up or not. Maybe Luke Shaw will save the day. Really, but again, we there's been all this. The weird thing to me was he finally came on the field, and they played him at center back in the back three. Now that surely will not happen again. Maybe the idea was they didn't feel like Luke Shaw could offer any kind of recovery runs. They didn't want to ask him to do that. Maybe it's easier to play as a center back, but they could have lost that game easily by having Luke Shaw be beaten on the back post if Switzerland went about it differently as well. Uh, so those are the things kind of coming into this. I thought it was funny how it was basically the Crystal Palace formation under Oliver Glasnow, and you know Crystal Palace formation. No Adam Wharton or Eze used. Basically get a bit of a rundown in the second half, but no Adam Wharton again. And I just feel like this is uh, he solves a lot of England's problems, and it doesn't feel like he's the semi-final is not really the time to try him out. Uh, and another thing was Kyle Walker in the back three. Why not just play a regular center back there? I had that thought even before the goal happened, so I feel like that kind of foreshadows a little bit what happens as well. Uh, and the other thing too was with this formation, I don't think it was like meant to do it, but we did see a player that probably had his best performance, but by the change of shape, and it probably wasn't the one people would have expected because we saw Phil Foden almost. The idea was to get Phil Foden the ball more in the half spaces or further upfield. I couldn't do that. So we saw Phil Foden dropping for the ball, and probably he had his most involvement so far in the tournament, but he wasn't really able to really be that influential in front of the goal because he was dropping so far deep to get the ball. But what Phil Foden was doing is as he was doing that, Kobe Mano was making runs forward. I think we saw the most involved of Kobe Mano we saw. And if not for some clever defending by Granit Xhaka and I guess maybe a Kanji on a couple of these blocks, Kobe Mano probably could have gotten England their first goal. Kobe Mano seemed the only player to recognize when Saka had the ball in the wing. Saka's going to beat his man. There's going to be open for a back cross in the box. Kobe Mano was the only one making that run. Kobe Mano, I thought, was better on the ball when he had it too. He was getting the ball and turning it, and the only problem was he was running past Harry Kane when he was getting the ball in the turn. He didn't have Harry Kane, further ahead of him. So we'll get to what England did and explain a little bit why this was the way it is, maybe how they can change it or not. Maybe this is just what it's supposed to be. But anyways, we get with Switzerland. And Konsa maybe saves a goal. So early involvement for Konsa. That was another thing too. Mark Gahey couldn't go, so Eversley Konsa had to come in. We're wondering little bit about that. Who would Southgate play instead of Mark Gahey? Lewis Dunk is the only one with a left foot, so I was wondering maybe it would be him. I didn't think it would be Joe Gomez, so it wasn't Gomez. It was Konsa, and credit to him. I think Konsa was maybe man of the match. With the number of saves that he did, and it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to stop that cross that led to the goal. Really, Saka ended up being the man of the match, but Konsa saved a couple of goals here for Switzerland. So here, Kyle Walker falls on his backside. Stones gets dragged out of position because of that. Abishare had a torrid time defending Saka, but at least had a nice ball into the box here. Plays it to Freuler into the box. He's got Bremo top of the box, open for a shot, open for the flick. Freuler's trying the flick, and it's read by Konsa. Konsa's able to stick a foot and defend it. Switzerland's game plan early on was sound. Really, they didn't care when Stones, Konsa, Walker, Rice, or Mano had the ball. They were trying to block passing lanes into Jude and Bellingham when they were trying to post up for the ball. But I also thought they would maybe overcompensated or respected England's width a little too much. I think it was Donovan that correctly called it out. England's three of Kane, Saka, and Trippier were kind of occupying five Switzerland players, leaving a lot of other players, open to operate. The only problem is England still couldn't create anything, even with all the time of the ball. Foden and Mano, etc. Uh, Bellingham, and another thing too was Switzerland seemed quite good when they had the ball to create overloads. So number of advantages with movement and switches, and England needed to defend a lot of well hit crosses into the box. So you can do a lot of fun things when you have multiple. When you have basically ball playing center backs in Shara and Akanji. Shaka is good at running games from deep. He's not exactly Tony Cruz, but he's like a dollar store version of it. Uh, and I thought Switzerland weren't really able to create a ton of looks, but it seemed like they were causing a little bit more fits. England's system change, Switzerland weren't really able to create a lot of uh, danger moments for Pickford, but they were forcing England to have a lot of last ditch defending. So Slovakia was able to get in behind. So Switzerland weren't able to do that, but and it did seem like the reason why England switched to the back three was it was to kind of counter a little bit what Switzerland do. So in that respect, I guess it did work, somewhat. Uh, the other thing too is I think the idea was to get Bellingham and Foden a little bit more involved, but they were getting annoyed they weren't getting the ball, so they were both dropping deep for it. And again, I think the one thing you can do a little bit more, maybe we'll see this versus Netherlands if both play, is when Foden drops for it, you have Kobe Mano takes up the space ahead to be a passing option. Maybe they can do quick 1-2. That can maybe be harder to defend. One thing about the Netherlands is you have Schlotten and you have Rangers. You kind of play it as a pivot, and usually Van Dijk and Ake, or if De Vrij, the two center backs have been a little not really even with the midfield line. There's been a little gap there in every game that I've watched. The commentators have noticed it too. It was noticeable versus Romania, of all teams, and it just feel like if someone could occupy that kind of space, get the ball in the turn, and then you have say Phil Foden, who's really good at doing that for Man City. If he can get there, turn, and he has options ahead of him to kind of orchestrate something with, that could be where you could hurt this Holland team. But England haven't really been playing that, so maybe you can have Foden kind of drop deep, and you try Maino to make a run. But the other thing too is even if you play Phil Foden in that quote unquote number 10 position that he loves so much, Phil Foden for Man City have every player on the field that can find him, that can find his feet with that kind of pass. England do not. England have been just do not have an ability to make those passes for reasons that aren't really explainable, other than Declan Rice can't do it. So that kind of gets to a problem as well. So we have a Kane again, not able to get any meaningful touches, really not involved. And I think the play that summed up England in that first half was England had a corner kick, and three back passes later, Pickford's the one on the ball. So the lack of bravery on the ball was staggering to me. Trippier left back shouldn't be taking corner kicks on the right side. That can give them problems too. But you see the amount of times England got into decent areas on the left side as well. Trippier just wouldn't be able to pick anyone out. It was staggering. So the questions coming into this was, the reason why they got by Slovakia is would Southgate surround Harry Kane with people that he needs, with runners ahead of him to work with? Or would Ivan Toney play instead, who will actually make those runs himself? And the answer was, of course, no. Should Ivan Toney start ahead of their captain is going to be something I bring up later. I think a decent case can be made that you could maybe, at the expense of Foden or even a Bellingham, you could play Toney and Harry Kane together. Uh, Probably at the expense of Foden. Maybe you play Bellingham next to Declan Rice and you hide Mano. I don't know, but you probably need to find a way to put two strikers together because Harry Kane's not doing anything. Or you play Anthony Gordon on the left wing. Uh, he at least will make some runs for Harry Kane. Harry Kane does not have his Son, does not have his Sane or his Alfonso Davies. I didn't really watch Bayern this year, so I don't know who is playing on the left. Gnabry. He doesn't have that in this England team, and you're not getting anything out of Harry Kane at all. So what is the point of playing him? That is something that he's the captain. That's the point of playing him. Southgate's probably not going to sit his captain. He's probably not going to sit Bellingham either. He's not going to sit Rice. So I don't. He has shown he can sub Foden off, but is this the game to sit Foden? I don't know. But that'll be something to get to later. And so another thing that happened in the first half was Bellingham gets Fabian Schär on an early yellow card, and At that point, Fabian Schär has to maybe worry a little bit about, how he can defend, and England would never really asked him to defend, after that. Bellingham did a really good job to getting behind him, and it was the only time someone gotten behind him. So just the lack of runs was just really, really poor. Uh, and to speak of Fabian Schär, already talked about it, but just the way that they were able to use him as an extra man offensively, he was looking like John Stones usually does for Man City. So other moments we have the Mano show. Really, the first half wasn't that great, but it was good for Mano. So 15th minute, we have a Mano shot block comes from winning the ball high. I think Trippier reads a pass. Gamble's able to intercept it, and then Trippier has a poor recross to Harry Kane. Can't really do anything with it. Lays it off to Mano. Decent strike. And then we have Mano doing well to win the ball again, but loses it, carrying it into the box. But Mano is getting a little bit more touches in the final third. Looks to have a little offer them a little different energy out of possession. He has like the Conor Gallagher kind of motor to him, but he's a little bit better on the ball. And then Mano had a brilliant turn around the 32nd minute, but when he's free, he just had no one ahead of him. So he had to go basically pass it out wide to Trippier. Nothing came from that. The other probably player that was really showing up was Saka. Saka had a number of times when he turned Abishare, uh, and we have Saka here getting a great run to the byline, finds Mano, and again, if not for Shaka, this is probably a goal as well. So England loads the ball in the final third, switched final third, but just hardly. I don't know if they drew a save from Jan Sommer at that point. Some decent clearances from both teams. So maybe the halftime thought was, I think man of the match, even like 70 minutes in, was Ezri Konsa, which said how much England had played. Saka did have some good moments taking on Abishare, beating him, but every Saka cross was cleared by a Switzerland player. Just Kane was always behind him, never anticipating the cross. Phil Foden maybe his most involved in the opening 30 minutes than he had been all 90 throughout the tournament, but he was looking to get on the ball and play to others, and just Foden can't do that with Harry Kane in front of him. That's been kind of a weird thing to me. I've long wondered maybe Man City should have gotten Harry Kane instead of Erling Haaland. And man, I could not have been more wrong about that. Phil Foden has completed 2 passes with Harry Kane the entire tournament. Phil Foden cannot play with Harry Kane for this reason. Just Foden needs someone to run with him. Holland will just create a goal moment for Phil Foden because Holland will draw so many center back attentions with him that Foden can use that to his advantage to create some space for himself to either go for a shot or to play Holland in. Harry Kane is just a passenger, and it's not good. Foden needs something else. I just Harry Kane's not making runs for him. Even when Kane is in front of the ball, it's just the chemistry has not been there the whole tournament. So Man City maybe dodged a bullet. Not listening to me there. England were decent defensively, but again looked incredibly imbalanced. And then again, I was wondering, it got so bad. I was wondering, could you get to a point where you swap Declan Rice and John Stones in possession? Just put someone instead in that position that has a forward pass in their locker. Adam Wharton continues not to be used, but again, everyone was wondering why can't Man City's Phil Foden show up for England, and this is why, because Man City don't have Declan Rice. That's basically what it is. It's also Man City have Holland, not necessarily Harry Kane. So again, Foden getting a lot of touches, but he was dropping so deep. He's getting the ball where he can't really hurt Switzerland. Switzerland went fine with that. And then with Switzerland, Mbola was doing just enough to create some dangerous moments. Mbola was dropping for the ball too, but he was getting more involved than Harry Kane. So he was doing well when he would show for it. Switzerland would be able to find it. He would be able to hold on to the ball, keep it, and then Switzerland could advance it other ways. So it's a decent hold up play. And then we saw him a little bit more involved in the second half as well. So early moments. So Konsa with 2 blocks. England starting to lose control of the game. Backline gets more and more pinned in. First attack where Shaka shows for the ball and then plays a through ball to Frela, who plays a forward ball to Mbolo in the box, and that's just not something England can do. These kind of passes. And then Rodriguez has time and space, completely open. Phil Foden just nowhere to mark. Trip or Kai Walker and Saka just no one is marking Rodriguez when he gets on the ball. He has an easy time to look up, all the time in the world to look up, and floats the ball to the back post, and Konza does just enough to put Mbolo off. But the more Switzerland are able to keep onto the ball and keep just moving it, slowly moving it upfield, England get more and more pinned back because they can't win the ball. Switzerland are just kind of move passing it, even if it's side to side. They're still making England move by having movement in front of them. And the more and more England get pinned back, there's just no counter threat. The only run over the top was really Saka, and the more and more you asked him to defend, you took that away. Switzerland were winning in the second half even before they scored the goal. Another thing too is I thought I had even before the goal was Kai Walker as a third center back was useless. In the final third, offered you nothing. And defensively, again, Switzerland don't have Mbappe. So who are you so worried about where you need his recovery pace to defend where you really needed someone to defend crosses into the box. And I said it before it happened. And even before they scored, it felt coming. So Switzerland have England completely pinned in for like a spell of 5 minutes or so. England are ball watching, and you just see Shaka and Fabian Schär just finding passes, threading it into the box, getting touches into the box. England are just getting away with it by some last stitch defending. But they're only just clearing it, and they don't have in a way to actually just get out of danger. And again, Switzerland can play their center backs high up, and when no one is worried about Harry Kane getting behind you, you can do that. There's no counter threat to push him back. Another thing about Switzerland was lots of their passing was side to side, but the movement ahead was always happening. There was always movement that gave England all sorts of fits, marking people, and you see it for the goal. So it starts with Fabian Schär getting a great long ball, from one side to the other to escape pressure. Switzerland move it upfield and pin England deep again. Fabian Schär gets the ball on the touchline when no one is on him. Trippier tries to run up to him, but Fabian Schär has a little carry with the ball, drawing attention. Phil Foden runs with Schär, and basically Ndoye slips in behind, going the other way. Schär sees it and plays a great slip pass to Ndoye, and then Ndoye has a square ball back post to find Mbremo basically, or Imbolo basically out muscling Kyle Walker to the ball. And I think a bigger center back in this position instead has a better chance to do than a right back out of possession. John Stones is unlucky with the touch, so that makes it easier for Mbolo. So there's a bit of luck in this as well, but it was deserved. It really was. Uh, because before Fabian Schär gets the ball, the reason why he's so unmarked is there's a little run by Reidner, who had just come on. He makes a run when Saka gets the ball. He makes a run towards I guess like the you know, basically towards the goal really, and Trippier doesn't think that Stones is going to see it, so Trippier tries to block it off, and that moves Trippier to follow with him, and that leaves no one basically marking that side of the pitch. And so that little run kind of created a little of this. Uh, and just again, just runs off the ball, creates for others. You can draws defenses to move, react. And because of that, it felt deserved. England just kept retreating, allowing Schär to run things from basically the 35-yard line with no pressure. And Schär really was impressive this game. He messed up a few crosses, but the creative bits on the ball were really, really good. And it gave England fits all game. And just he was an additional midfielder in the England final third, and just he was able to do things that Declan Rice or England's players could not do. But England do quickly respond. But I don't think it's because of what Southgate does. So Southgate again makes a hockey lineup change. He takes Kobe Mano off for Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer didn't really have a position after that. Moved Jude Bellingham basically to play next to Declan Rice. So I guess Cole Palmer was kind of like one of the tens. Trippier off for Eze on. It looked like Eze played at wingback. Konsa off, and then Schär finally comes on. And you were wondering, finally Shaw's going to come on and finally play a left wing back kind of position too. And instead, he played him at center back, and you had John Stones as the only center back with Walker and Luke Shaw as the quote unquote back three, and it was a jumbled mess. And it works because England are still able to get the goal, but I don't think it's because necessarily of what Southgate did. But here, Saka is able to basically he was turning Abishar inside and out the entire first half. Abishar didn't get tight enough here to stop Saka trying to cross a shot. I think because Saka had been turning him by going to the byline, uh, Abishar actually is allowing Saka some space because he doesn't want to get beat that way. He's allowing Saka to cut onto his left foot. Weirdly enough, this is usually not how teams play Saka. Usually teams think avoid Saka getting onto her right foot and allow him to go to the byline. Who cares? But Saka had been turning him inside and out. I think that led a role a little bit here. So because of Saka's good work in the first half, he's able to get the ball onto his favorite foot to be able to do what he normally likes doing, cutting inside, going for goal. But another thing too is he uses the run of Declan Rice. So again, having people just make unselfish runs is important. Even if you don't have teams with players that do not have people running without the ball, or runs to me that are struggling to create in this tournament. So Rice's run creates the goal as much as Saka's shot because it drags the defender away from the spot Shaka basically eventually shoots from. And it was a great shot. It's taken quickly. I think Summer probably even sees it late, but he has no shot anyways. Uh, and then we have a late Embolo chance that you possibly could have won it at the very end. Not a lot of action happened after England conceded. But I think Switzerland messed up here. England were playing again with John Stones and two 6-foot players as their center backs. Just one cross that Stones would have missed would have been an opportunity. And I just don't think Switzerland, put enough bodies forward. It seemed like they were playing to extra time, and then when they got to extra time, they were playing for PKs. They took off two of their pacey players and Bolo. They took off Ndoye. Even if you take off Bolo, you could have brought on the 19-year-old striker that started versus Hungary. But instead, you brought on Shaqiri and you brought on a DM and Zakaria. So that to me was almost like retreating. And you play for PKs, live and die by the PKs, and they died. So so the extra time notes was I just think it was another thing too was the commentators thought England were going to be either really exposed, which I kind of agreed with, or they thought England would be really hard to defend against because they had all these attacking players. Surely they would be able to pin Switzerland back, and England would have chance after chance, and maybe England would have to maybe Switzerland would have to make 6 or 7 blocks, or the Jan Sommer would have to make a number of saves because of all these attack minded players. And the problem is football doesn't really work like that. And just you saw Foden, Palmer, as a Kane, and Jude all wanted the ball played to their feet, and when one of them got the ball, everyone else would be looking. Even if you had people ahead of them, everyone else would be looking, standing, waiting for them to pass them the ball too. There was no movement ahead for any of them to work, and that's what you need movement for any of them to work, not just all of them. And so it was another situation where I think Anthony Gordon would have made more sense than one of the people that he brought on. Harry Kane, picks up a knock, has to go off. So Ivan Toney, is able to come on for the final few minutes. Uh, it worked out because Harry Kane probably would have been a PK taker, but Ivan Toney is probably the best PK taker in the world. You could maybe argue he's got a weird, a way of doing it. I think he basically he like stares at keepers when he does it, but he hasn't missed. He's only missed like one time out of like 5 years. He's got some crazy record, not just for Brentford, even before in the championship, or not just in the EPL, even before in the championship with Brentford or with someone else. Uh, so that worked out okay, at least for them. If Harry Kane picking up a knock, maybe it's a blessing. Maybe Harry Kane can't even go. Maybe you try Harry Kane off as a sub versus the Hollands. Maybe you start Ivan Toney. That really would change how England could work, which I'll get to. And then Phil Foden subbed off, of course. So he brings on Trent, and I was fearing this. I was fearing having Alexander Arnold having to take a PK cold. Southgate hasn't used Trent properly all of 6 years, and I thought it was a setup, really. But he was up to the task, and I guess, credit to him, he was able to have his final England moment because everyone made their PK, but Trent had the pressure one, and had a lovely PK. Uh, and it was the one that won it because Switzerland's Akanji missed after stepping up first, or Pickford, I guess, saved it. So there you go. I mean, Saka saved Southgate. I do think that is the talk. I mean, after all that left back talk or left wing back talk, he does it by playing on the right. So Saka would have enjoyed that. And it was a saving. Southgate, I think, messed up again, but he's able to get away with it again. So maybe that's the story of the tournament. Shaw being back maybe stops some of the talk about Saka being on the left too, but we'll have to see. I mean, again, it's on Southgate for being just so bad to go into a tournament without having someone that can play on the left. Uh, and maybe England can finally field a balanced team. I don't really know. I mean, 13 shots, only 3 on target. Switzerland, 11 shots, only 3 on target. 5 shots versus 2 in the first half, so it was a snoozer in that respect. 0 big chances for England, one for Switzerland. England about even on possession, 52. Switzerland, 48. Touches in the penalty area, 37 to 30. Final third entries, 72 to 66. And crosses, 6 of 28 to 5 and 22. And then England with 600 plus passes, and Switzerland was 500 plus passes. Neither team were really trying to really press to win the ball, but both teams trying to kind of they both teams are just trying to prevent, I guess, a way to get, I guess, the influential players on the ball. You can say uh, it was I don't know, to stick with England, the thing you can say about Southgate is, maybe he gets lineups wrong. He does. Maybe he gets, like, the big calls wrong. One thing you can say is the way he has changed how this team has performed or how the nation has performed. Vibes always seem positive in every England camp. That wasn't always the case. Reading about England back when Steven Gerrard was doing all these interviews, why and Lampard, why Gerrard and Lampard couldn't play together. There's been books written about that generation, why they would always fall short. So the vibes changed. It's not nearly as clicky with the clubs, I guess. That's you can credit Southgate there. Uh, but they've also been better in PKs in past generations, and they've been able to make multiple finals and semifinals. Now, I think that's more credit to the players, obviously. 'Cause I think Southgate's actually hurt them in that respect. But he he's the man in charge, so I guess he gets some credit. But England threw on PKs where it wasn't that long ago where they used to be. This used to be troubling for them. And yes, they did lose to Italy, but I think Southgate also messed up by having three players to come on to be cold. Also, a couple players that took those PKs weren't invited in this England camp in Sancho and Rashford. So, was that kind of a thing too? And also, I think it's great for Saka as well. Palmer steps up, makes his first one. Jude takes one. Saka has had probably got maybe some of the worst abuse out of any of them. And he was 19 when he stepped up versus Italy 3 years ago, and it was a great moment for him. Stepped up, took it calmly, and just it was not savable at all. So well hit PK. So Saka was able to have his moment, and really Saka, this game was Saka. Saka saved England, saved Southgate. Uh, and then Tony was the other one to take one. Uh, who again is maybe the best PK taker in the world. And then Alex Arnold with the finishing touch. Uh, and another thing you can say too is a lot of these players, take them for their club team. With Palmer and Tony and Saka's taken a couple for Arsenal. So, but to talk about why was this game so bad? The move to the back three to match Switzerland's back three to give Phil Foden and Bellingham more space, maybe play in. People were saying it worked. I don't think it did. It was just because of different reasons than we'd seen. Foden got more comfortable on the right. Foden was able to play on the right. Bellingham was able to play a little bit more on the left. So they weren't crowding each other. But at the same time, when both get on the ball, they both need the same thing. They need runners ahead of them, and England were not able to offer that. Trippier was able to play a little ahead, but no one fears when he gets the ball, as we've all seen. Uh, Playing Foden a little inside and Saka on the wing, that obviously did work. But again, it just you could possibly play this formation and just play Tony, switch Tony out for Harry Kane, and maybe make it look better, just by that one change. Uh, Also, I would switch Kyle Walker out for someone else because I think Kyle Walker versus like a Cody Gagpo is not necessarily the easiest, or even a Route Wanghorst. Not really the best matchup for them. So, with positive Saka just the reason why I liked what Saka did is the ability to be 2-footed. He wasn't afraid to go on his right. He wasn't afraid to take people on and to try to go to the byline. And because he showed he could do it going that way, he was able to finally eventually get it onto his left and go for goal with his preferred foot. And that all it takes is just the threat. You don't have to always do it. It's just having the threat, show that you can do it one time. I know it's uncomfortable for him, but show you can do it one time, and that it gets into the defender mind where he has to defend both ways. It gives you a little more space to operate because he's going to be a defender that's not going to know which way you're going to go, is going to lay off you. He's not going to be as tight. So, it was good for Saka to finally do that. We haven't seen that kind of Saka this tournament. Really, I haven't seen a lot of that for Arsenal. This is what Saka used to look like. So that was awesome to see, and awesome to see too because he was talked about with playing in different positions, and a lot of Chelsea fans were having fun because they were like, "Haha," or Cole Palmer's better than your player. I just think Ian Wright recognized you got to play someone on the left. That's not Trippier. Really, I think it was praising how multi-talented Saka is, but people didn't take it that way. Maino probably played his best game as well. So Maino played his best game. Foden was more involved than he had been. Didn't necessarily help out much. Uh, because the negatives and concerns are still there. Kyle Walker and Trippier just not good enough. Whether or not it's Luke Shaw played, you got to find a way to fix that left side. Kyle Walker as his third center back is dumb. If you play him at right back, versus to just defensively, I don't really think he's better than Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I would probably say Trippier at right back before Kyle Walker. So it's just yeah, it's a little Man City hate, but still, I don't think Kyle Walker's done enough to be undroppable, and it seems like with Southgate he is. And then again, the front line just non-existent. Kane, Bellingham, and Foden not worked all tournament. Kane's a problem. Lack of runs, the positional play too. He's it's not just the runs. He's looking to get the ball next to Declan Rice at times. Declan Rice is even further ahead at times. You can't play Kane this way. Or you can. You just have to have Yeomin Son instead. A Rashford would have worked in the past. You have Anthony Gordon. We haven't seen that. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows. They looked lost out of times, out of possession as well. That front three, Bellingham, Foden, and Kane, cannot turn people over at all. Uh, and I don't think they had a clue how to apply pressure on Switzerland center backs with the ball. Switzerland were able to really win the positional battle. And the only problem you can say about Switzerland is after they got the goal, they kind of pushed back and allowed England to kind of push them in a little bit. They shouldn't have done that. But oh well, it is what it is. Do I give England a shot versus the Netherlands? I think the one area again that's vulnerable is that Reinders and Schlotten kind of pivot midfield. You can get someone in behind. I think you can get them a little bit defensively. Commentators again have talked about that space between Van Dijk and De Vrij, in front of the midfield. Uh, even if not, I just said Phil Foden. Even a Cole Palmer, if you could fit him in there, would create some danger. But you have to find someone that can get them the ball as well. England just don't have that. Uh, I think another thing too is you can't just get into a semifinal and have Bukayo Saka as your only running outlet ahead of the ball. One, because the Netherlands have a player that Saka is like nemesis, really. I guess you can say maybe Saka's nemesis is now Ian Wright, but no, Nathan Ake. Anytime that Saka has gone up against him with Arsenal and Man City, Ake has done a job on him every single time. The funny thing is Pep started playing Gvardiol instead of Ake on the left. But like 2 years ago or last year, yeah, 2 years ago, the number of times when Arsenal played Man City, whether it was in the league or whether it was in the FA Cup, Ake did a job on Saka. And so if you can take Saka out just 1v1, who is England's outlet to go ahead? It's not going to be Bellingham. It's not going to be Kane. Not going to be Foden. Maybe it'll be Shaw, but that would be the thing that I'd be watching. And again, we've seen one thing we to say as well is we've seen Harry Kane have a moment for England this tournament. Scoring versus Denmark. We've seen Bellingham have a moment or two, really. Scoring versus in the first game, and then scoring versus Slovakia or Slovakia with the bike or the somersault kick. Even Alexander Arnold has gotten a moment. You can say with the PK here. Saka had a moment here. The only player that hasn't had a moment yet for this England team that has been talked about as much as any of these others is Phil Foden. So does Southgate finally unleash him? Do we finally see the Phil Foden that's been at Man City? Do we finally see that? If England go through, I think that has to happen. We'll see if it happens or not. I think I'm probably going to pick the Netherlands for that game. Also, Kane and Tony, you either play them together, or I think you sit Kane and play Tony. Uh, sitting your captain is not going to be easy to do, but maybe you can get away with it by saying Kane's injured. Kane wasn't able to play or wasn't able to take a PK. Maybe he still has a knock. He fell into he was pushed into the stands and maybe he has a bruise or something. You can explain it away that way where it doesn't hurt his reputation. That you have to do it. Anthony Gordon probably needs to if England need a way to get in behind. The Netherlands, the way they play, it's a back four that turns into a back three. Sometimes they have Ake going ahead, but not really. Uh, and you have Dumfries that comes on and almost becomes their winger at times. And to me, someone like a De Vrij would be gettable in a 1v1 with someone with pace. Adam Bellingham's not going to be able to do that. A Gordon would. do we see that or not? Is it the game for Rice and Mano? Probably is, but that'll be what it is. And then with Luke Shaw being back, do we finally see him at left back? If so, maybe that is the change that England has needed. Finally, they'll be able to to attack on the left side and the right side. We'll have to see. I don't imagine the back three will be tried again with Mark Yahey back. Maybe it'll probably be the back four that we have seen. Uh, and we'll see. We'll see if that works or not. You probably could do this. You don't even have to set Jude Bellingham. Just you have Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice in a midfield pivot, and you allow Phil Foden to play as your 10. That way you could fit Anthony Gordon in, and that way you could also fit Luke Shaw in. Uh, that could possibly work, even with a Harry Kane or not. That could possibly work. And Jude Bellingham can maybe do a job of picking those passes to find Foden. Uh, it would sit Kobe Mano, but that could maybe be how you do it. But other than that, I probably do favor the Dutch. Weghorst and Gakpo bully ball, I think probably destroys them if they go ahead and play the lineup that they just played versus Switzerland. So we'll have to say again, Zaka being the only outlet, that will not be enough either. Uh, so we'll see. And then with Switzerland, I think they were the better side. They nullified what England were trying to do, and just I think they just didn't take advantage after they scored. They retreated a little too much, and then after England conceded or scored the equalizing goal, they didn't really attack that disjointed setup that Southgate had put out there. So unlucky for Switzerland. Shaka, Froila, and Schär definitely positives to take away from the tournament. And Bolo was kind of a surprise. No one knew about his fitness coming into this, and he did himself well. Ndoye as well, impressed all tournament. Probably shouldn't have been taken off unless he didn't have any legs. But unfortunately, all of that good, you just still only had 3 shots on goal. So despite all those passes and all that movement, still weren't able to really get Pickford that much. So that's kind of where we are, and see how we're doing for time. So don't have a ton left. Probably gonna scamp a little of Netherlands and Turkey. It was a good game. The first half though was not good at all. I mean, the first start, you wonder, oh, maybe it's going to be easy for Netherlands because there was a really nice movement by Gakpo. He was able to play in Memphis. Memphis, makes a man miss, gets into the box, and does all the hard stuff that you would ask, and then he does the easy part. He can't get the shot on goal, and boots it over. Then we have a free kick for Turkey. Ake gets the block. Dumfries here makes a mistake. He thinks the ball is going to go out for a goal kick, and instead he doesn't realize Ake got the last touch. So it's a cheap corner kick to give away, and Turkey score on the corner kick. So after the first ball is blocked, Turkey recycle. Arda Güler gets it himself. Sends in a great ball to the back post that puts in for Brengan in no man's land. Simple header, put it on a plate for Semet Akeledin, and he was the one that was played instead of Demiral. So that was fitting a little bit. Turkey were really upset coming into this as well. There was talks that they needed more security for the game because of UEFA suspending Demiral for 2 games for doing a gesture that they thought was an acknowledgement to, I guess, some extremist group that didn't pass muster. But I mean, halftime was Netherlands had so much of the ball, but just really you don't really remember their keeper, the Turkish keeper, having to make really any kind of saves. Turkey had becoming a force on set pieces as well. I just felt they they were in a position where they could maybe sit back and kind of defend that lead if they wanted. Netherlands weren't able to create any kind of danger at all. Netherlands were getting the ball, and uh, you know, who were they going to to do anything into the box with Xavi Simmons and Memphis? So it felt like there had to be a change. Also, Steven Bergwijn was played or got a start. He wasn't really offering anything either. I was wondering if nothing else, play Frimpong there instead. And we did see a change. We finally saw a change by Koeman, but again, Koeman got the first lineup wrong, which has been a theme, in my opinion, all tournament from him. The funny thing about him is, Koeman, Southgate, and Deschamps have been the same exact manager, and funny enough, three out of the four or the final. So, in the semifinal. So maybe I'm just not maybe I'm the one that's messing up by doubting him. I don't know. Couple standout performances, at least, for Turkey, were Arda Güler, Ferdi Kadıcıoğlu, 24-year-old for Fenerbahce, lovely little left back that just was giving, getting, seemed to basically win any kind of sprint, any kind of 50-50 ball. He was everywhere. Yilmaz, I looked at his SOFA score. He didn't have the best SOFA score. I thought he was giving Virgil van Dijk all he could handle. I thought Yilmaz was amazing, the striker for Galatasaray. Uh, but in Netherlands, again, you're having 90% of the ball. You imagine if you could find a way to create a little bit more, that would eventually, help out a little bit. So the lack of physical presence in the box, well, if only you had, say, a 6'6" guy that could come in and change the game, and that's what we saw. Wanghorst comes on from Bernstein or Bergwijn, and then the ball finds Wanghorst. Gakpo has a simple square ball. Trez for goal himself. Kind of poor contact, but it's just enough to draw a save, and this wins the corner kick. So Gakpo, three basically to create this, bullies three people, then creates, and they get a chance for Wanghorst after a lovely ball slipped in by Memphis Depay. This just comes because Memphis knows just throw it into the box and allow your 6'6" guy to create some hell. And they get a corner kick out of nothing because of it, and they score on the corner kick. The corner kick is also taken differently. So they play it short to Schlotton. Schlotton then plays it back to Memphis, and they change the angle of delivery, and it's a perfect ball sent in to De Vrij, beats everyone to it. And Wanghorst also has two people marking him. So Wanghorst just being there again is drawing attention, and De Vrij has a free header for it. If Wanghorst plays versus England, any kind of corner kick that Netherlands get is going to give England fits, in my opinion. You've got Van Dijk, you've got Ake that's been really good in the air for Man City. Uh, Wanghorst, Cody Gakpo, 6'4". You have towers everywhere. De Vrij just showed he can score. So that to me will be something. Dumfries is like 6'2", if he plays. So you just have height advantages everywhere. Who is Phil Foden going to mark if he plays versus them? So that'll be something I'll probably be watching. And then we see the second goal with Gakpo or Mulder for their own goal. It's unfortunate too because Gakpo could have been a leading goal scorer had this been counted. Uh, but it's a really good example too of just it's a Xavi Simons cross that just finds Wanghorst. Uh, but it also, it's trying to find Wanghorst, but it also basically nearly finds Dumfries to the back post. Turkey defend that well, but they can't clear the ball. And then Schlotton wins a 50-50 header. Netherlands putting more and more people forward. Regardless of whether or not there can be a counter on them, they're committing numbers forward, and they get rewarded for it. So Schlotton, high up, is able to win the 50-50 header, kind of outside the box. Wanghorst then does well to kind of run back and kind of be an option, and he helps keep the ball as well. He finds Xavi Simons, and then Xavi Simons with a one-time hit is able to find the ball out wide to Dumfries. Great vision by Simons, and then Dumfries basically catches Turkey by surprise with the early cross to the back post. And Dumfries does the right thing. He squares it and does it early. And Gakpo is able to make a run to the back post, and it goes a little unmarked, and basically bowls over the defender or kicks the defender. Anyways, the touch basically is able to get it past the keeper. So whether or not it's Gakpo's goal, the Mulder's own goal, or a foul that leads to a goal, it counts. And but at that point, though, we got a better game than I guess we were expecting because Turkey had been sitting back and defending and soaking in all this pressure. And after they conceded, man, did they go for this. So credit to them. But we also had a Netherlands chances as well with Gakpo having a chance with the Turkish keeper, Xerxes, player that we hadn't seen the entire tournament, got his debut. Another 6 foot tall attacking player that they can play on. Apparently, he's linked to Man United now. Had a good season for Bologna. Nice little knockdown header plays in Gakpo, and Gakpo has a good shot, draws a save. But Turkey weren't done. Verbruggen had to make a number of saves late to keep this from going to 120 minutes. So Atakoglu came on, immediately created two danger moments. Mickey Van de Ven and Van Dijk have big blocks as well. Van de Ven straight up with a goal line clearance. Turkey were fun surprise the whole tournament. And even though they played with a back five, they were pushing numbers forward when they did attack. So, and they did force Holland fans or Netherlands fans to hold their breath the final few minutes. Probably regardless of Netherlands winning with 2-1, you could argue Verbruggen was maybe the hero. And people were going online that Verbruggen was maybe responsible for the first goal. So maybe a little error there, but he made up for it. He made up for it with a number of really big saves towards the end. Also, De Vrij, Van Dijk, and Van de Ven, all three of them all three of the defenders had to make big goal line clearance blocks as well. Turkey really did turn the screws after they went down a goal. So for the neutral, this was lots of entertainment. And it's just not something that we got out of the other game. So at least I can credit there. Turkey looked to be an interesting team coming into 2026, to say the least. Lots of young players that they just kind of rolled out. Jose Mourinho has just gone to Fenerbahce. Uh, oh, maybe the Turkish league is improving in quality. I haven't really watched any of it. I do know that they gave Galatasaray gave Man United a pretty big run for it this past season in the Champions League. I think they even beat them. From what I remember, I think maybe even Onana had a couple messy saves that led to that. But I don't know. Arda Güler definitely looks like a star, to say the least. And this left back of theirs, Fede impressed at least in this game. So did Yilmaz. So, and you have Chanalhagu. Yeah, Turkey have a lot of promising football players for the moment. And I like the idea that they weren't afraid to go forward and advance with the ball, whether or not it was with center backs having the time of the ball and just taking some risk, taking some carries. It was enjoyable. It really was. Turkey were one of the more fun teams of the tournament. So sad to see them go, but also glad that it is Netherlands versus England. To get that out there as well. So yeah, 11 shots, only 4 on target. Turkey 15 and 4. 2 big chances for the Netherlands, 3 for Turkey. Netherlands with majority possession, you would imagine. Touches in the penalty area, 22 versus 17 for Turkey. Final third entries, though, kind of tells the story. Netherlands with 65, Turkey with 41. Turkey was sitting back for most of that second half, and then they really did go forward after a couple of changes. Artakoglu coming on definitely did change them a little bit. Crosses, Netherlands with 3 for 13, Turkey with 5 for 20. I was a little bit surprised about that when you have Weghorst, but they weren't just doing cross after cross after cross. They were still trying to play. So I think if nothing else, with that he needs to start. He needs to start for them. We'll see if he does or not. The shape towards the end was a bit puzzling as well after Weghorst came on. So you had De Vrij, Van Dijk, and Ake as the back three almost. Van Dijk or Dumfries almost played as your winger. Gakpo offered width on the other side. Simmons and Memphis almost played underneath as double tens, and then you had Weghorst. Uh, and just by doing that, you had control of the game. But the interesting thing to me is Gakpo is so tall, and you're asking him to almost be your kind of creator as well. I would probably want Gakpo more in the box, but that is just kind of he's kind of frustrated me as a Liverpool fan either as well. But you can't say it hasn't hurt them or had hurt Netherlands or hasn't hurt him, as he is leading at the moment the tying leader for Golden Boot. So we get Netherlands and England, and either way, one manager at least is going to find a way to screw up and still win. So we'll see if we get that. Uh, I do probably favor the Dutch though, from reasons I explained. Gakpo versus Kyle Walker, I would definitely prefer. I think Gakpo has the edge there. Saka versus Ake are already mentioned as well, and I also think it's funny how this was the mock-up draw for one of the round of 16 matches before the Group 3 ended. So we finally get to see that as well. And as far as who other players that can feature, not just Wangos. Frimpong finally get to go. We've seen Malin get a couple starts, hasn't really worked out. We've seen Bergwijn get a start on that right side. Coman hasn't found a way to play someone on the right side. To me, I saw Jeremy Frimpong just absolutely make Canada, basically, poop their pants in a friendly. Now it is a friendly. But Frimpong was amazing, and as we've seen since then, Jesse Marsh's Canada, all they've done is made the Copa America semifinals. So I just think, Frimpong is quote unquote a right wing back, but I think he really is an attack minded winger at heart. I don't really think Leverkusen were asking him to defend. I don't understand why you don't just play him as your winger. And the overlap ability, or the way you could maybe play it with Frimpong and Dumfries just kind of running off each other, that would be so hard to defend if you're England. I've been surprised we haven't seen that. Do we see Xerxes again? Like maybe a player to come on. Do we see Memphis and Xavi Simons play together? A lot of Dutch people don't want Memphis to start for them. I think Memphis, as far as like a number 10 player, I think Memphis is maybe more kind of skilled or veteran in that respect. But Memphis and Chevy Simmons both had key passes that led to their second goals. So uh, lots of ways for Koeman to mess this up, but also lots of ways for him to mess it up and fix it. And that's basically what we've seen the whole tournament. And I already talked a little bit about Turkey, so that is where we are to end. So. Uh, thank you for listening, and I'll be back to. I won't be back to talk about what happens in the semifinals. I'll be back to talk about the finals and maybe do a mini rundown with the semis next week because I will be going out of town. So until then, you stay squatted and stop recording.